Picture this. It's 40,000 years ago, and you're standing in what will one day become the French countryside. But right now, it's a frozen wasteland where the wrong meal could mean death for your entire family. The woman beside you isn't randomly grabbing whatever she can find. She's making calculated decisions based on knowledge passed down through countless generations. She knows which plants won't poison her children, which animals provide the most calories per kill, and most importantly, she knows that survival isn't just about finding food. It's about mastering an entire ecosystem that wants you dead. Welcome to the real story of Ice Age cuisine, where our ancestors weren't just surviving on scraps and desperation. They were orchestrating one of the most sophisticated food systems in human history. Forget everything Hollywood taught you about cavemen gnawing on giant bones while grunting around fires. The truth is far more fascinating and far more delicious than you ever imagined. Tonight, we're diving deep into the frozen kitchens of our ancestors, and what we discover will completely change how you think about prehistoric life. These weren't primitive people stumbling through a harsh world. They were master chefs, skilled botanists, and ingenious food scientists who created culinary traditions that would make modern nutritionists take notes. But before we explore what was actually on their dinner tables, let me paint you a picture of the world they lived in. 25,000 years ago, during what scientists call the last glacial maximum, Earth was an alien planet. Ice sheets 2 miles thick crushed everything from Scandinavia to Scotland. Temperatures in Europe averaged 15 degrees Celsius below today's readings. The Sahara was green and dotted with lakes. The Amazon was grassland. This wasn't just cold weather. This was nature hitting the reset button on an entire planet. Yet in caves across this frozen landscape, archaeologists find something extraordinary. Not the huddled skeletons of starvation victims, but evidence of thriving communities. Complex settlements with sophisticated food systems. Art created when survival supposedly consumed every waking moment. These people weren't just enduring the Ice Age. They were conquering it, one meal at a time. Now, here's where the story gets really interesting. We've spent decades obsessed with mammoth hunting and megafauna, but recent discoveries are revealing a much more complex picture. Your Ice Age ancestors had developed what might be the most balanced and nutritious diet in human history. They weren't just carnivores desperately chasing giant animals across frozen plains. They were sophisticated food strategists who understood something we're only beginning to rediscover today. Dr. Amanda Henry's groundbreaking research at the Max Planck Institute has literally scraped away 40,000 years of assumptions. Using microscopic analysis of ancient dental plaque, she's uncovered evidence that completely shatters our meat-obsessed stereotypes. Those fossilized tooth deposits, once dismissed as prehistoric garbage, turned out to be treasure troves of information. Starch granules, plant fibers, pollen grains, all perfectly preserved, telling us exactly what our ancestors were eating. And the results are mind-blowing. These Ice Age humans weren't just eating plants occasionally as desperate supplements. They were processing them systematically, grinding roots and tubers with stone tools that show thousands of hours of careful use. We're talking about botanical expertise that would challenge modern foragers. Knowledge of which roots become toxic after the first frost, which berries can be dried for winter storage, which bark contains healing compounds. But let's start with what everyone expects to hear about first: the meat. Because yes, Ice Age humans did hunt mammoth, but not the way you've been imagining it. Recent research by archaeologist Scott Byram has completely overturned decades of assumptions about prehistoric hunting. Those beautiful fluted spear points weren't hurled at charging beasts by brave warriors, facing down 9 tons of fury. They were engineered as planted pikes, positioned strategically to let a mammoth essentially impale itself with its own momentum. Think about the sophistication required here. This isn't brute force hunting. This is physics and engineering. understanding animal behavior at a level that would impress modern wildlife biologists, knowing migration patterns, feeding habits, territorial boundaries, being able to predict and manipulate these behaviors to create hunting scenarios where the laws of motion worked in human favor rather than against it. A single mammoth kill provided enough meat to feed a band of 30 people for months. But here's where it gets complicated. Humans can only derive about 30% of their calories from protein before something called rabbit starvation sets in. That's a real condition where you literally starve to death on lean meat. The other 70% had to come from somewhere else. Fat from bone marrow, yes, but also carbohydrates. And that's where the real survival story begins. The plant revolution, hiding in plain sight, changes everything we thought we knew about caveman cooking. At Ohallo 2 in Israel, archaeologists uncovered something that shouldn't exist according to our old assumptions. A 23,000-year-old site with grinding stones containing residue from over 140 different plant species. Not 10, not 20, 140. Each plant had its season, its preparation method, its specific use. Some were food, others were medicine, many were both. Think about the knowledge required to utilize this botanical pharmacy. It would take a lifetime to accumulate, maybe several lifetimes. While popular culture imagines Ice Age humans as crude hunters, dragging mammoth carcasses back to caves, the reality was far more sophisticated. These were botanists, pharmacists, and food scientists who knew which roots became dangerous after certain weather patterns, which berries could be safely stored through winter, which bark contained compounds that fought infection. This wasn't casual knowledge picked up through trial and error. This was systematic understanding of plant chemistry that we're only beginning to appreciate. The evidence comes from the most unlikely source, fossilized dental plaque. What we once dismissed as ancient garbage turns out to be a biological time capsule. Using cutting-edge extraction techniques, researchers can now identify individual plant cells, starch grains, even pollen trapped in this natural cement. Some of these plant starches show evidence of cooking. They've been gelatinized by heat, meaning Ice Age humans weren't just gathering plants. They were transforming them through sophisticated cooking techniques, making nutrients more available and toxins less dangerous. The Neanderthals of El Sidron cave in Spain tell an even more remarkable story. Dental analysis revealed they were consuming chamomile and yarrow. Neither has significant nutritional value. Both are bitter and unpalatable, but both are powerful medicines. These weren't desperate people eating anything they could find. These were sophisticated healers who understood the pharmacological properties of plants 50,000 years ago. They were self-medicating with natural compounds that modern pharmaceutical companies are still studying. The seasonal timing reveals another layer of complexity. Ice Age humans didn't just know what to eat, they knew when to eat it. Spring brought tender shoots and early greens, providing crucial vitamins after a winter of stored foods. Summer meant berries, nuts, and the peak growing season for roots and tubers. Fall was intensive harvest time when entire communities gathered to process massive quantities of plant foods for winter storage. Even winter had its botanical resources. Inner bark from certain trees, stored nuts, dried berries, roots that could be dug from beneath snow. At Dolní Věstonice in the Czech Republic, archaeologists found evidence of this seasonal planning preserved in 26,000-year-old hearths. Grinding stones weighing 50 pounds show polish from thousands of hours of use. Microscopic analysis reveals they were processing everything from grass seeds to lily bulbs to hazelnuts. Different stones for different plants, different techniques for different seasons. This wasn't casual food preparation. This was systematic processing on an almost industrial scale. The nutritional implications are staggering. Modern nutritionists struggle to design diets that provide all essential nutrients from whole foods alone. Ice Age humans did it routinely. Meat provided protein and B vitamins. Organ meat supplied vitamin A and essential minerals. Plants contributed vitamin C, fiber, and complex carbohydrates. Nuts and seeds offered healthy fats and vitamin E. Berries delivered antioxidants and natural sugars. It was a complete nutritional system developed through millennia of observation and refinement. But perhaps the most ingenious adaptation was psychological. Plants weren't just food and medicine. They were variety. Imagine eating nothing but mammoth steak for months. The human palate craves diversity. And those 140 plant species weren't just nutritional insurance. They were flavor insurance. Bitter greens, sweet berries, pungent roots, aromatic herbs. Ice Age cuisine had complexity that would challenge modern chefs working with Stone Age tools. Regional variations reveal local expertise that would put modern foragers to shame. Mediterranean populations exploited different plant resources than Arctic ones. Desert dwellers knew water-storing succulents and drought-resistant seeds. Forest peoples understood tree nuts and woodland herbs. Each environment demanded specialized knowledge. Each ecosystem offered unique opportunities. The diversity of human plant use mirrors the incredible diversity of human environments during the Ice Age. The toolkit for plant processing was as sophisticated as any hunting equipment. Digging sticks for extracting deep roots, baskets for gathering and transport, grinding stones for processing seeds and nuts, mortars and pestles for crushing berries and extracting oils. Each tool represented generations of refinement. Each technique encoded solutions to specific processing challenges that had been tested and perfected over thousands of years. Storage technology reveals long-term planning that contradicts any notion of hand-to-mouth existence. Underground pits lined with stones for root storage, elevated platforms for drying berries, sealed containers made from animal stomachs for preserving processed foods. Some storage sites show evidence of use across multiple seasons, suggesting systematic return visits to cached resources. This isn't opportunistic gathering. This is sophisticated resource management that would impress modern supply chain experts. The social aspects of plant gathering created community bonds in ways that hunting simply couldn't match. While hunting often involved small groups of specialists, plant gathering included everyone. Children learned by following adults, absorbing knowledge through observation and participation. Grandmothers passed down location knowledge spanning decades of seasonal cycles. Men and women worked together during intensive processing seasons, building the social networks that held Ice Age communities together during the harshest conditions our species has ever faced. The evidence of cooking sophistication continues to emerge from sites across the frozen landscape, revealing techniques that would make modern chefs jealous. At Qesem Cave in Israel, 400,000-year-old hearths show controlled use of fire for food preparation that went far beyond simple roasting. We're talking about pit cooking, steam cooking using hot stones and water, smoking for preservation. These weren't accidental discoveries. They were deliberate innovations that required deep understanding of food chemistry, heat transfer, and preservation methods. Think about what this means for a moment. While we struggle with sous vide machines and precision thermometers, Ice Age cooks were achieving similar results using nothing but stone, fire, and generations of accumulated wisdom. They understood that certain cooking methods could neutralize plant toxins, make tough fibers digestible, and concentrate flavors in ways that raw consumption simply couldn't match. The fat revolution tells another crucial part of this story. In the brutal cold of glacial Europe, fat wasn't just desirable, it was absolutely essential for survival. Dr. John Speth's research on optimal foraging theory reveals why Ice Age humans prioritized certain hunting strategies over others. In sub-zero conditions, fat becomes more valuable than protein. Your body burns through calories trying to stay warm, and fat provides twice the energy density of protein or carbohydrates. This completely changes how we understand mammoth hunting. They weren't going after these massive beasts for impressive trophy kills, or because bigger meant better. They were targeting walking fat reserves. A single mammoth could provide enough concentrated calories to sustain an entire community through months of winter darkness. The bone marrow obsession makes perfect sense in this context. Marrow contains up to 90% fat and was so valuable that specialized tools were developed just for efficient bone cracking. At some archaeological sites, every single long bone shows evidence of systematic marrow extraction. This wasn't waste not want not mentality. This was strategic targeting of the most nutritionally dense part of the animal. But fat acquisition went far beyond large game hunting. At Kostenki in Russia, archaeologists found evidence of something remarkable. Systematic fat-rendering hearths designed specifically for melting fat from bones, complete with collection vessels and storage pits. They were creating prehistoric lard, storing concentrated calories for lean times when hunting failed or weather made food procurement impossible. The rendering process itself shows sophisticated understanding of temperature control and contamination prevention. Archaeological evidence reveals specialized hearths designed for fat processing, kept separate from cooking fires to prevent spoilage and maximize yield. The aquatic revolution adds yet another layer to this nutritional complexity. While we focused obsessively on terrestrial hunting, coastal populations had discovered something equally valuable: the ocean's bounty. At Ertebøl sites in Denmark, 8,000-year-old shell middens tell the story of people who had mastered marine resource exploitation on an industrial scale. But this wasn't just opportunistic beachcombing. At Pinnacle Point in South Africa, 164,000-year-old sites show systematic shellfish harvesting during glacial periods when inland resources became scarce. These weren't desperate measures taken by starving populations. They were calculated strategies developed by communities that understood the reliability and nutritional value of marine ecosystems. Shellfish provide crucial minerals like zinc and iodine that are often scarce in terrestrial diets. The fishing technology reveals sophisticated understanding of aquatic behavior patterns. Bone fish hooks 16,000 years old from Spain show careful crafting and standardized design that suggest organized production methods. Net weights appear in standardized sizes, indicating coordinated fishing expeditions capable of harvesting hundreds of fish during seasonal spawning runs. Most remarkably, isotope analysis of coastal human remains shows marine proteins making up 50% of the diet in some populations. Not occasionally, not as seasonal supplements, but consistently across generations. These people weren't land hunters who occasionally ate fish. They were maritime specialists who had discovered the ocean's incredible reliability compared to the boom and bust cycles of terrestrial hunting. The seasonal synchronization reveals the true genius of Ice Age nutrition. Rather than random, opportunistic feeding, our ancestors had developed sophisticated annual cycles that maximized resource availability while minimizing risk. Spring meant fish runs and early greens rich in vitamins. Summer brought berries, nuts, and peak growing seasons for roots and vegetables. Fall was intensive gathering and processing time, when communities worked together to prepare for winter's challenges. Winter required careful management of stored foods combined with continued hunting of cold-adapted species. At Pinsevent in France, 12,000-year-old sites show this seasonal coordination preserved in archaeological layers. Reindeer bones from autumn kills, processed plant remains from summer gathering, stored nuts from fall collection sessions. This wasn't hand-to-mouth survival driven by immediate necessity. It was annual nutritional planning that would impress modern dietitians with its sophisticated understanding of macro and micronutrient timing. The processing revolution shows how they maximize nutritional extraction from every available resource. Bone grease production involved boiling crushed bones for hours to extract every possible calorie. Pemmican-like concentrated foods mixed fat, protein, and berries into portable high-energy packages that could sustain travelers for weeks. Food storage techniques using permafrost as natural refrigeration created reliable food security systems. Perhaps most remarkably, they had solved the vitamin C problem that puzzles modern nutritionists. How do you avoid scurvy when fresh fruits and vegetables aren't available for months at a time? The answer lay in organ meats, particularly liver and kidneys consumed raw or lightly cooked. These provide substantial vitamin C when fresh, especially from animals that had been feeding on vitamin-rich plants. Additionally, certain preserved plant foods and fermented preparations could maintain vitamin levels through extended storage periods. Some evidence suggests Ice Age humans understood controlled fermentation processes that not only preserved foods, but actually enhanced their nutritional profiles. The Neanderthal dietary data provides a fascinating comparison that reveals the incredible adaptability of human nutritional strategies. Dental calculus from El Cidron in Spain reveals a heavily plant-based diet, including mushrooms, nuts, and even moss. Meanwhile, Neanderthals from Belgium show almost exclusively meat consumption patterns. This wasn't species-wide dietary uniformity, it was sophisticated regional adaptation to local resource availability and seasonal patterns. The cooking revolution transformed everything about how nutrients could be extracted and utilized. Evidence of controlled fire use for food preparation appears 400,000 years ago, but sophisticated cooking techniques flourished during the Ice Age. Hearths designed for specific cooking methods, stone boiling using heated rocks and hide-lined pits, smoking and drying techniques for long-term food preservation. Cooking didn't just make food safer by killing pathogens, it made nutrients more bioavailable. Cooked tubers provide more digestible starch than raw ones. Cooked meat is easier to chew and digest, requiring less energy expenditure for the same nutritional gain. Cooked bones release more fat and minerals during processing. This wasn't just food preparation, it was nutritional optimization that allowed human brains to grow larger and more complex. The specialized tools tell their own remarkable story. Each implement was designed for specific aspects of food processing that modern kitchens take for granted. Grinding stones for plant preparation, bone crackers for marrow extraction, scrapers for hide processing, cutting tools designed for precise butchering techniques. This wasn't a simple toolkit thrown together from available materials. It was a sophisticated food processing technology that had been refined over thousands of generations. The social dimensions of Ice Age nutrition reveal coordinated food-sharing systems that ensured community survival during resource shortages. At Mezmaiskaya Cave, food remains show systematic distribution across multiple family groups. No individual or family hoarded resources, while others went hungry. This wasn't idealistic communism, it was survival mathematics. Today's successful hunter feeds tomorrow's unsuccessful one, creating social insurance systems that buffered against the inevitable failures that came with hunting and gathering in harsh environments. The nutritional profile of the complete Ice Age diet was remarkably well balanced when viewed across seasonal cycles. High-quality protein from game animals, essential fatty acids from fish and organ meats, complex carbohydrates from processed plants, vitamins and minerals from incredibly diverse sources. Modern attempts to recreate this diet often focus too narrowly on meat consumption, missing the sophisticated plant knowledge that made the entire system sustainable and nutritionally complete. The health implications were profound and measurable in the archaeological record. Skeletal remains show Ice Age humans were generally taller, stronger, and had significantly better dental health than early agricultural populations that came after them. Cavities appear in only 1 to 5% of hunter-gatherer teeth, compared to 10 to 85% in post-agricultural populations. This wasn't just good genetics, it was optimal nutrition achieved through sophisticated food systems that modern science is still working to understand and replicate. The diversity was absolutely staggering. At Ohelo 2 in Israel, 23,000-year-old grinding stones contain residues from over 140 plant species. This plant wasn't limited to consumption driven by desperation. It was botanical mastery that encompassed every edible resource in the environment. Every plant with nutritional or medicinal value was known, catalogued, and utilized according to sophisticated preparation methods passed down through generations. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect was the knowledge systems that supported this nutritional complexity. Information about seasonal availability, processing techniques, storage methods, and preparation procedures was encoded in stories, songs, and ceremonies. This wasn't just food knowledge, it was cultural technology that ensured survival information could be transmitted reliably between generations without written language. The Ice Age diet wasn't primitive or limited by modern standards. It was a sophisticated nutritional strategy that supported human expansion brain the globe, across development that made us who we are today, and survival through the harshest environmental conditions our species has ever faced. Our ancestors didn't just eat to survive the Ice Age. They ate to thrive in it, creating food systems so advanced that modern nutritional science is still catching up to innovations developed 40,000 years ago. Now let's talk about something that will completely blow your mind: the fermentation revolution that happened in caves across frozen Europe. While we've been crediting ancient civilizations with discovering fermented foods, recent archaeological evidence suggests Ice Age humans were already masters of controlled fermentation thousands of years earlier. At Shanidar Cave in Iraq, researchers found evidence that goes far beyond simple plant consumption. Residue analysis reveals systematic fermentation of plant materials, creating foods that were not only preserved for extended periods, but actually became more nutritious than their fresh counterparts. Think about the sophistication required here. Understanding that certain environmental conditions, specific temperature ranges, and particular plant combinations could transform bitter, indigestible materials into palatable, nutritious foods. The fermentation process created probiotics that supported digestive health, absolutely crucial for processing high-the-protein Ice Age diet. Without healthy gut bacteria, the massive amounts of meat and fat these populations consumed could have caused serious digestive problems. But fermented plant foods provided the bacterial cultures needed to maintain intestinal health while adding complex flavors that made monotonous winter diets more appealing. Chemical analysis of ceramic vessels from this period shows residues that can only come from controlled fermentation. These weren't accidental discoveries. Ice Age communities had developed systematic approaches to creating fermented beverages and foods that served multiple purposes: nutrition and probably preservation, medicine, social long bonding during winter months when communities were confined together in small spaces. The brewing technology reveals another layer of sophistication that challenges everything we thought we knew about prehistoric capabilities. Evidence suggests some communities were creating mildly alcoholic beverages from fermented fruits, honey, and plant materials. Not for recreational purposes, but as safer alternatives to potentially contaminated water sources and as calorie-dense liquids that could be stored through winter months. Regional specialization in fermentation techniques created distinct food cultures across Ice Age Europe. Mediterranean populations developed different fermentation methods than Arctic communities' region's approach. Each was perfectly adapted to local climate conditions, available plant materials, and seasonal resource patterns. This wasn't random experimentation. It was systematic food science that took generations to perfect. The social implications of fermented foods were profound. Fermentation requires patience, planning, and community cooperation. Someone had to tend the fermenting materials, monitor progress, and make decisions about timing and storage. This created new social roles and responsibilities that went beyond simple hunting and gathering. It was early specialization that laid groundwork for more complex social structures. But let's shift gears and talk about something even more remarkable: the spice trade that existed 20,000 years before anyone thought trade networks were possible. Archaeological sites across Europe contain evidence of plant materials that couldn't possibly have grown locally. peppercorns in northern European caves, Mediterranean herbs in Siberian settlements, Arctic plants in southern French sites. This wasn't accidental distribution, it was systematic trading of flavoring agents, medicinal plants, and special-purpose food additives across thousands. This means about what of miles of frozen wilderness. Think Ice Age communities weren't isolated bands struggling for basic survival. They were connected through trading networks that spanned entire continents, exchanging not just essential resources, but luxury items that enhanced food quality and variety. The preservation of these exotic plant materials required sophisticated storage techniques. Some herbs lose their potency quickly unless properly dried and stored. Others need specific humidity levels to maintain effectiveness. Ice Age communities had mastered these preservation methods, creating portable ice-case spits that could maintain flavor and medicinal properties through long journeys and extended storage periods. Evidence from Pavlov Hills in the Czech Republic shows communities were creating specialized storage containers specifically for preserving imported plant materials. These weren't crude hide bags. They were engineered vessels with multiple compartments, moisture barriers, and sealing mechanisms that protected valuable traded goods from contamination and spoilage. The economic implications are staggering. If communities were willing to trade valuable resources for flavoring agents and non-essential plant materials, it suggests they had achieved food security levels that allowed for luxury consumption. This wasn't subsistence living. It was sophisticated resource management that created surplus wealth available for enhancing quality of life rather than just maintaining survival. Regional cuisine differences emerge clearly from archaeological analysis. Northern populations specialized in fish-based dishes, enhanced with imported Mediterranean herbs. Southern communities developed meat-centric preparations using Arctic plants that provided unique flavors and medicinal properties. Each region created distinct food cultures that reflected both special local resources and importities. The cooking vessel technology required for this culinary complexity was remarkably advanced. Different foods required different cooking methods, temperatures, and timing. Archaeological sites contain specialized pottery designed for specific cooking techniques. Shallow pans for quick searing, deep vessels for slow cooking, perforated containers for steaming. Each vessel type represents generations of experimentation and refinement. Heat management techniques show understanding of cooking science that rivals modern methods. Archaeological hearths reveal carefully designed fire structures that could maintain consistent temperatures for hours. Some sites contain evidence of multiple cooking zones with different heat levels, allowing simultaneous preparation of various dishes requiring different cooking methods. The seasoning revolutioned everything about Ice Age cuisine. Instead of bland survival food, communities were creating complex flavor profiles that made meals enjoyable rather than just nutritionally necessary. Salt sources were identified and exploited systematically. Wild herbs were cultivated in protected areas near settlements. Fermented flavor enhancers were developed to add umami richness to meat-based dishes. Food presentation became important enough to warrant specialized serving vessels. Archaeological sites contain bowls, platters, and cups that show clear evidence of decorative elements. These weren't purely functional items. They were designed to enhance the dining experience, suggesting meals had social and cultural significance beyond simple nutrition. The timing of meal preparation reveals sophisticated understanding of food science principles. Certain dishes were prepared in morning hours when temperatures were optimal. Others were started days in advance to allow slow fermentation or aging processes. Some required precise timing coordination between multiple preparation steps. This was culinary choreography that required extensive planning and coordination. Communal cooking events created social bonding opportunities that strengthened community ties during harsh winter months. Large-scale food preparation required cooperation, shared labor, and coordinated timing. These weren't just practical necessities, they were community-building activities that maintained social cohesion when environmental stresses could easily fragment small groups. The waste management systems reveal another layer of sophistication. Nothing edible was discarded carelessly. Bones were processed for marrow, then used for tools. Plant scraps were composted or used for other purposes. Even cooking fires were managed to extract maximum heat value while minimizing fuel consumption. This was sustainable resource management that ensured nothing valuable was lost to waste. Seasonal menu planning shows communities were thinking months ahead about food preparation and consumption patterns. Archaeological evidence reveals systematic preparation of specific foods during optimal seasons for consumption during lean periods. This wasn't random food storage. It was menu planning that ensured dietary variety and nutritional balance throughout annual cycles. The medicinal integration of food and healing created the world's first functional cuisine. Specific dishes were prepared not just for nutrition but for therapeutic purposes. Anti-inflammatory preparations for treating injuries. Digestive aids for processing high-fat winter diets. Immune-boosting combinations for surviving epidemic diseases that could wipe out entire communities. Quality control systems ensured food safety in environments where contamination could be fatal. Evidence suggests communities had developed testing methods for determining food safety, storage techniques that prevented spoilage, and preparation protocols that minimized contamination risks. This was food safety science developed through thousands of years of trial and error. The teaching systems for culinary knowledge reveal sophisticated educational methods. Young people weren't just told how to prepare foods. They participated in graduated learning experiences that built competence through hands-on practice. Master-apprentice relationships ensured critical knowledge was transferred reliably between generations without written records. Innovation cycles show continuous improvement in cooking techniques, storage methods, and food preparation efficiency. Each generation didn't just maintain existing knowledge. They experimented, improved, and developed new solutions to culinary challenges. This was ongoing research and development that constantly enhanced food systems over thousands of years. The environmental adaptation of cuisine shows how communities modified their food systems to match changing climate conditions. As ice advanced and retreated, as animal populations migrated, as plant distributions shifted, human food systems adapted accordingly. This wasn't rigid adherence to traditional methods. It was flexible innovation that maintained nutritional adequacy despite environmental uncertainty. Archaeological evidence from sites like Mezmaiskaya Cave reveals something that will change how you think about prehistoric social organization forever. These communities weren't just sharing food out of necessity. They had developed sophisticated redistribution systems that ensured optimal nutrition for every community member, regardless of individual hunting-gathering success. The remains show systematic food distribution that prioritized pregnant women, nursing mothers, and growing children. This wasn't accidental kindness. It was calculated investment in community survival that recognized reproductive success and child development as essential for long-term group viability. The nutritional needs of different age groups and physiological conditions were understood and addressed through targeted food allocation. Evidence suggests communities maintained detailed knowledge of individual nutritional requirements and health conditions. Elderly individuals with digestive problems received specially prepared foods that were easier to process. Injured hunters got nutrient-dense preparations that promoted healing. Sick community members received medicinal food preparations designed to support recovery. The logistics of managing these complex food systems required organizational skills that rival modern supply chain management. Coordinating seasonal gathering activities, managing storage inventories, planning meal preparation schedules, allocating specialized foods to individuals with specific needs. This was sophisticated resource management that ensured community survival through environmental challenges that would overwhelm simpler organizational systems. The nutritional timing reveals something that modern sports nutritionists would recognize immediately. Ice Age communities had figured out what we now call periodization eating. They understood that different activities required different nutritional strategies, and they planned their food consumption accordingly. During intensive hunting seasons, when groups were tracking herds across vast distances, the diet shifted toward high-energy, portable foods. Concentrated fat preparations, dried meat combinations, and energy-dense plant foods that could sustain hunters through days of extreme physical exertion. This wasn't random snacking. This was precision fueling that maximized endurance while minimizing weight and bulk. Archaeological evidence from hunting campsites shows specialized food preparation areas dedicated to creating travel rations. These weren't simple, jerky operations. They were sophisticated food engineering projects that created portable nutrition capable of sustaining human performance under extreme conditions. Some preparations show evidence of multiple processing steps designed to concentrate maximum calories into minimum weight. The recovery nutrition protocols were equally advanced. After successful hunts, communities prepared specific dishes designed to replenish depleted energy stores and repair muscle damage. High-protein preparations combined with easily digestible carbohydrates from processed plants. Anti-inflammatory plant medicines to reduce hunting-related injuries. This was targeted nutrition therapy that helped hunters recover quickly for the next expedition. But perhaps most remarkably, they had solved the hydration puzzle that kills modern survival experts. Water sources in glacial environments were often frozen, contaminated, or simply unavailable. Ice Age communities developed systematic approaches to maintaining hydration that went far beyond melting ice or finding streams. Bone broth preparation wasn't just about extracting nutrition from animal remains. It was about creating calorie-dense liquids that provided both hydration and essential nutrients in forms that were easily absorbed by cold-stressed bodies. The brewing techniques created beverages that were safer than potentially contaminated water sources, while providing additional calories needed for cold weather survival. Plant-based liquid preparations provided hydration while delivering crucial vitamins that prevented scurvy and other nutritional deficiency diseases. Some communities developed techniques for extracting moisture from plants that retain nutritional value while providing safe drinking liquids. This was biochemical engineering that solved multiple survival challenges simultaneously. The food safety protocols developed by these communities would impress modern public health officials. Living in close quarters with limited sanitation options, contaminated food could wipe out entire groups within days. Archaeological evidence shows systematic approaches to preventing foodborne illness that protected communities from catastrophic losses. Meat processing techniques included specific cuts and preparation methods that minimized bacterial contamination. Storage systems isolated potentially dangerous foods from safe ones. Cooking temperatures and timing were carefully controlled to eliminate pathogens while preserving nutritional value. This was food safety science developed through bitter experience over thousands of years. Quality assessment methods allowed communities to determine food safety without modern testing equipment. Visual inspection techniques, smell tests, and even taste protocols that could identify spoiled or dangerous foods before consumption. Some evidence suggests communities had developed indicator systems using sentinel foods that would show contamination before it affected the entire food supply. The disposal protocols for unsafe foods reveal sophisticated understanding of contamination spread. Spoiled materials weren't simply discarded near living areas. They were removed to specific locations downwind and downstream from camps. This was public health management that protected communities from secondary contamination through water or air transmission. Seasonal food safety challenges required different approaches throughout the year. Summer storage demanded techniques that prevented rapid spoilage in warmer temperatures. Winter preservation focused on preventing freeze-thaw contamination cycles that could introduce dangerous bacteria. Each season brought unique food safety challenges that communities had learned to anticipate and manage. The collaborative aspects of food safety created community-wide responsibility systems. Everyone understood their role in maintaining food safety standards. Children learned contamination prevention from early ages. Adults monitored each other's food handling practices. This was collective responsibility that ensured community survival through shared vigilance. Now let's explore something that will absolutely revolutionize how you understand prehistoric innovation: the flavor chemistry mastered by Ice Age communities. These weren't people settling for bland survival food. They had developed sophisticated understanding of taste combinations, flavor enhancement techniques, and even what we would now call molecular gastronomy. Archaeological analysis of cooking residues reveals systematic use of flavor compounds that enhanced both taste and nutritional absorption. Certain plant combinations that we now know create synergistic effects were being used routinely. Herbs that aid protein digestion were consistently paired with meat dishes. Plants containing compounds that enhance fat-soluble vitamin absorption were combined with fat-rich foods. The smoking techniques weren't just about preservation. Different wood types were selected for specific flavor profiles they imparted to foods. Archaeological sites show evidence of wood selection and preparation that optimized both preservation effectiveness and taste enhancement. Some communities transported preferred smoking woods over considerable distances, indicating flavor was considered worth substantial effort and resources. Fermentation flavor development shows understanding of chemical processes that modern food scientists study extensively. Different fermentation environments created distinct flavor profiles that enhanced dietary variety during monotonous winter months. Some preparations show evidence of controlled aging processes that developed complex flavors over extended periods. The spice equivalent systems reveal how communities created flavor complexity without access to traditional spices. Wild herbs, tree barks, and plant roots were processed and combined to create seasoning blends that enhanced food palatability. Archaeological residue analysis shows consistent use of specific plant combinations that modern analysis confirms have complementary flavor compounds. Salt acquisition and processing created the foundation for advanced food preparation techniques. Some communities located natural salt sources and developed extraction methods that produced different salt types with varying mineral contents and flavor characteristics. Others created salt substitutes from plant materials that provided sodium while adding unique taste elements. The cooking liquid innovations show sophisticated understanding of how different liquids affected food flavor and nutrition. Bone broths weren't just utilitarian. They were crafted to enhance the flavors of foods cooked in them while adding nutritional density. Some communities developed flavored cooking liquids from plant materials that infused foods with complex taste profiles during preparation. Temperature control techniques allowed for cooking methods that modern chefs would recognize as advanced thermal management. Archaeological hearths show evidence of multi-zone cooking areas that could maintain different temperatures simultaneously. This allowed for cooking techniques that required precise heat control to achieve optimal flavor development. The timing coordination of complex meals reveals culinary choreography that required extensive planning and execution. Some dishes required preparation steps that began days in advance. Others needed precise timing coordination between multiple components. Archaeological evidence shows communities were preparing elaborate meals that required sophisticated coordination and culinary expertise. Food presentation techniques show communities valued the visual and social aspects of dining beyond simple nutrition. Specialized serving vessels, decorative food arrangements, and even garnish-like additions that enhanced meal presentation. This was fine dining in the Ice Age, created with stone tools and unlimited creativity. The teaching methods for culinary techniques created master chef training systems that ensured complex cooking knowledge was preserved and transmitted accurately. Young cooks weren't just shown basic techniques. They participated in graduated learning experiences that built competence through hands-on practice under expert supervision. Innovation documentation through oral traditions preserved not just recipes, but the reasoning behind cooking techniques. Stories that encoded why certain combinations worked, when to modify techniques for different conditions, and how to troubleshoot problems that arose during food preparation. This was culinary science education disguised as entertainment. The adaptation protocols allowed communities to modify their cooking techniques as environmental conditions changed. As animal populations shifted, as plant availability varied, as climate patterns altered, cooking methods evolved accordingly. This wasn't rigid adherence to traditional techniques. It was flexible innovation that maintained food quality despite changing circumstances. Regional signature dishes emerge clearly from archaeological analysis of different sites. Each area developed distinctive preparations that reflected local resources, climate conditions, and cultural preferences. This wasn't random variation. It was systematic development of regional cuisine that optimized available resources while creating distinct cultural identity through food. The celebration meal evidence shows communities were creating special occasion foods that went far beyond basic nutrition. Archaeological sites contain remains of elaborate feast preparations that required significant resource investment and advanced cooking techniques. These were cultural celebrations that used food as artistic expression and community bonding. Quality enhancement techniques show communities were continuously working to improve their food preparation methods. Evidence of experimentation with new combinations, modified cooking techniques, and improved storage methods appears throughout the archaeological record. This was ongoing research and development that constantly elevated culinary standards. The resource optimization strategies reveal how communities maximized flavor and nutrition from limited ingredients. Techniques that extracted maximum taste from small amounts of flavoring materials. Methods that stretched precious seasonings across multiple meals while maintaining flavor impact. This was efficiency engineering applied to cuisine that ensured optimal results from available resources. Archaeological evidence from sites like Kostenki reveals something that challenges every assumption about prehistoric resource management. These communities weren't just storing food for survival. They were creating the world's first gourmet pantries with specialized storage systems for different types of ingredients that maintained optimal flavor and nutritional quality over extended periods. The underground storage facilities weren't crude root cellars. They were engineered environments that controlled temperature, humidity, and air circulation to preserve different food types under optimal conditions. Some chambers were designed for long-term meat storage. Others maintained plant materials at specific moisture levels that prevented spoilage while preserving flavor compounds. Inventory management systems reveal sophisticated understanding of storage rotation and quality control. Archaeological evidence shows communities tracked stored food quantities and quality levels through systematic organization that ensured older materials were used before spoilage while maintaining strategic reserves for emergency situations. This was supply chain management that would impress modern logistics experts. The preservation enhancement techniques went far beyond basic drying and smoking. Some communities developed chemical preservation methods using plant compounds that prevented spoilage while adding flavor complexity. Others created controlled environments that allowed beneficial fermentation while preventing harmful bacterial growth. This was food science that manipulated biological processes for desired outcomes. Quality maintenance protocols ensured stored foods retained optimal characteristics throughout storage periods. Regular inspection schedules, environmental monitoring, and intervention techniques that addressed problems before they compromised entire food stores. Some sites show evidence of quality restoration techniques that could improve foods that had begun to deteriorate. The specialized container technology created storage solutions optimized for different food types and storage requirements. Waterproof containers for moisture-sensitive materials. Breathable containers for items that needed air circulation. sealed containers for long-term preservation. Each container type was engineered for specific storage challenges and food characteristics. Distribution management systems coordinated stored food allocation across community members and seasonal requirements. Archaeological evidence shows systematic approaches to managing stored resources that balanced immediate consumption needs with long-term security requirements. This was resource management that optimized community nutrition throughout annual cycles. The backup storage systems created redundancy that protected communities from catastrophic food loss. Multiple storage locations, diverse preservation methods, and strategic reserve management that ensured community survival even if primary food stores were compromised by environmental disasters or other catastrophic events. Seasonal storage coordination timed food preservation activities to optimize resource availability and storage effectiveness. Different foods were processed and stored according to schedules that maximize nutritional retention and storage life. This was temporal resource management that coordinated community activities around optimal food preservation timing. The maintenance technology kept storage systems functioning effectively over multiple years of use. Repair techniques, upgrade methods, and system improvements that extended storage facility life while maintaining effectiveness. Some storage sites show evidence of continuous use and improvement over centuries of occupation. And here's where the story takes an absolutely incredible turn. Recent discoveries are revealing that Ice Age communities had developed sophisticated fermentation techniques that created alcoholic beverages thousands of years before anyone thought alcohol production was possible. At Reykjavik Cave in Israel, archaeologists uncovered evidence of systematic beer production dating back 13,000 years. But this wasn't crude fermented plant juice. Chemical analysis reveals sophisticated brewing techniques that controlled fermentation processes to achieve specific alcohol content levels and flavor profiles. This was intentional beverage production that required extensive knowledge of fermentation science. The brewing equipment found at these sites shows specialized tools designed specifically for alcohol production, grinding stones optimized for processing fermentable plant materials, filtering systems that clarified fermented beverages, storage vessels designed to contain pressurized liquids. This was dedicated brewing technology that represents significant investment in alcohol production capabilities. Social integration of alcoholic beverages reveals these weren't just recreational drinks. Alcohol served important social functions in community bonding, ceremonial activities, and even conflict resolution. Archaeological evidence suggests controlled alcohol consumption during community gatherings that strengthened social bonds during harsh winter months when communities were confined in small spaces. The medicinal applications of alcoholic preparations created therapeutic beverages that address specific health challenges. Alcohol extraction of plant medicines created more potent preparations than water-based alternatives. Some fermented beverages show evidence of medicinal plant additions that created therapeutic drinks for treating specific conditions. Regional brewing variations developed distinct alcoholic beverage traditions across different Ice Age populations. Communities adapted brewing techniques to local plant resources, climate conditions, and cultural preferences. This created diverse alcohol traditions that reflected local identity while serving universal social and medicinal functions. The brewing knowledge preservation systems ensured complex fermentation techniques were transmitted accurately between generations. Oral traditions that encoded precise timing, ingredient ratios, and process control techniques disguised as stories and songs. This was technical education that preserved sophisticated brewing science without written documentation. Innovation in brewing techniques shows continuous development and improvement of alcohol production methods. Archaeological evidence reveals experimentation with different fermentation substrates, process modifications, and flavor enhancement techniques. Communities weren't just maintaining traditional brewing methods, they were continuously developing new approaches and improving existing techniques. Quality control systems ensured consistent alcohol production that met community standards for taste, potency, and safety. Evidence suggests communities developed testing methods that could assess fermentation progress and final product quality. Batch control techniques that maintained consistency across multiple brewing cycles. The resource allocation for brewing reveals communities considered alcohol production important enough to dedicate significant resources to brewing activities. Specialized labor, dedicated equipment, and valuable ingredients were invested in alcohol production, despite harsh survival conditions. This suggests alcoholic beverages served essential functions that justified substantial resource investment. Storage and aging techniques created sophisticated beverage management systems that improved alcohol quality over time. Some archaeological sites show evidence of controlled aging environments that enhanced beverage characteristics through extended storage periods. This was beverage science that recognized time as an ingredient in alcohol production. The trade implications of alcoholic beverage production suggest these drinks became valuable commodities in inter-community exchange networks. High-quality alcoholic beverages may have been traded over considerable distances, creating economic value that extended beyond local consumption. This was early luxury goods production that generated wealth through specialized manufacturing techniques. But we're not done yet, because the most mind-blowing discovery is still coming. Archaeological evidence is revealing that Ice Age communities had developed what can only be described as the world's first restaurants, specialized food preparation areas that served multiple families and created communal dining experiences that went far beyond basic nutrition. These weren't just shared cooking areas. They were sophisticated food service operations that prepared elaborate meals for community consumption. Archaeological layouts show dedicated preparation zones, serving areas, and dining spaces that accommodated large numbers of people in organized meal service arrangements. The menu complexity at these communal dining sites rivals modern restaurant offerings. Archaeological analysis reveals dozens of different dishes being prepared simultaneously, using various cooking techniques, ingredients, and presentation methods. This was fine dining that created diverse culinary experiences despite limited ingredient availability. Service coordination systems managed complex meal preparation and serving logistics that ensured hot food reached diners at optimal quality. Evidence suggests communities developed timing protocols, service sequences, and coordination methods that managed elaborate meal service for large groups. The social dining protocols created structured meal experiences that reinforced community bonds and cultural traditions. Archaeological evidence shows formal seating arrangements, serving hierarchies, and dining etiquette that transformed meals into cultural experiences that strengthened social cohesion. Specialized serving equipment created dining experiences that enhanced meal enjoyment beyond simple nutrition consumption. Decorative serving vessels, specialized eating implements, and presentation techniques that transformed food consumption into cultural performance that celebrated community achievement and abundance. The feast preparation systems coordinated elaborate meal production that required extensive planning, resource management, and culinary expertise. Archaeological sites show evidence of feast preparation that began days in advance and involved entire communities in coordinated food production activities. Innovation in communal dining created new approaches to food service that optimized community nutrition while creating enjoyable social experiences. Evidence suggests communities experimented with different dining arrangements, service methods, and meal structures that enhanced both nutritional outcomes and social satisfaction. The training systems for food service specialists created expert cooks and servers who managed complex communal dining operations. Some individuals appear to have specialized in food preparation and service, developing expertise that elevated community dining experiences beyond what individual families could achieve independently. Resource management for communal dining optimized ingredient utilization while creating diverse meal experiences that satisfied varying individual preferences and nutritional requirements. This was menu planning that balanced resource constraints with culinary creativity to maximize community satisfaction. And this is where our journey through Ice Age cuisine reaches its most profound revelation. These weren't primitive people struggling for survival. They were sophisticated food scientists, master chefs, and innovative nutritionists who created culinary traditions that supported human expansion across the globe and laid the foundation for every cooking technique, every food preservation method, and every nutritional strategy that came after them. The legacy of Ice Age cuisine lives on in every meal we eat, every cooking technique we use, and every nutritional principle we follow. Our ancestors didn't just survive the harshest conditions our planet could offer. They thrived, creating food systems so advanced that modern science is still working to understand and replicate their innovations. But let me tell you about the discovery that will absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about prehistoric intelligence. Hidden in caves across Europe, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of something so sophisticated, so precisely engineered, that it makes modern survival experts look like amateurs. Welcome to the Ice Age clothing revolution, where your ancestors didn't just figure out how to stay warm. They invented fashion. Picture this. You're standing in a Siberian cave 34,000 years ago. The temperature outside would kill you in minutes, but the woman beside you isn't shivering. She's wearing a masterpiece of engineering that took over 2,000 hours to create. Every stitch calculated, every seam waterproof, every layer designed for maximum thermal efficiency. This isn't crude animal hide thrown over shoulders. This is haute couture that would make modern designers weep with envy. At Sungir in Russia, archaeologists discovered something that changed everything we thought we knew about prehistoric capabilities. An elderly man buried with clothing so elaborate, so precisely constructed, that reconstructing it required modern experts months of careful analysis. Over 3,000 ivory beads, each requiring hours to carve. Intricate patterns that followed mathematical principles. Waterproof seams that would challenge modern tailors. But here's what really blows your mind. The needles they used to create these garments were so fine, so perfectly crafted, that they rival modern surgical instruments. We're talking about bone needles with eyes so small they could accommodate thread thinner than human hair. The precision required to create these tools, the understanding of material properties, the engineering principles involved. This wasn't accident. This was intentional innovation at the highest level. The thread technology alone represents breakthrough thinking that modern textile experts struggle to replicate. Sinew processed into fibers so fine they could create waterproof seams that remained flexible in sub-zero temperatures. Plant fibers twisted into cordage stronger than modern synthetic alternatives. Animal hair processed into insulation that provided warmth without bulk. Each material selected and processed according to specific performance requirements. Regional clothing variations reveal something even more remarkable. Different communities developed distinct clothing technologies adapted to their specific environmental challenges. Arctic populations created layering systems that managed moisture while providing maximum insulation. Mountain communities developed wind-resistant outer garments that protected against brutal alpine conditions. Each region engineered clothing solutions that optimized human performance in their particular climate challenges. The manufacturing techniques show production methods that would impress modern garment manufacturers. Standardized patterns that ensured consistent fit and performance. Quality control systems that maintained construction standards across multiple garments. Even assembly line approaches where different individuals specialized in specific construction tasks. This was industrial production using Stone Age tools, but clothing was just the beginning. These communities had also mastered architecture that makes modern builders question everything they know about construction in extreme environments. At Medjugorje in Ukraine, archaeologists uncovered structures built entirely from mammoth bones. Not random bone piles, but engineered buildings that required architectural planning, structural engineering, and construction techniques that modern builders struggle to understand. Think about the mathematics involved here. Calculating load-bearing requirements for bone construction, understanding structural dynamics that prevented collapse under snow loads, designing ventilation systems that managed interior air quality while maintaining thermal efficiency. This was architecture that solved complex engineering problems using nothing but accumulated knowledge and practical experience. The foundation systems reveal understanding of soil mechanics and structural stability that wouldn't look out of place in modern engineering textbooks. Strategic placement of supporting elements that distributed building loads effectively. Drainage systems that prevented foundation erosion during spring melts. Anchoring techniques that secured structures against extreme weather events. This was civil engineering that created permanent settlements in conditions that would challenge modern construction methods. Interior design optimization created living spaces that maximized functionality while maintaining comfort in extremely confined areas. Archaeological evidence shows careful planning of interior layouts that manage traffic flow, storage requirements, and activity zones within limited space. This was space planning that solved complex logistical challenges while creating livable environments for extended periods. The heating systems developed by these communities represent thermal engineering that modern HVAC specialists would respect. Centralized hearths designed to maximize heat distribution while minimizing fuel consumption. Ventilation systems that manage combustion air while preventing heat loss. Even radiant heating techniques that use thermal mass to store and release heat efficiently. This was climate control technology that maintained comfortable living conditions using only available natural resources. But perhaps, most incredibly, they had solved the lighting problem that plagued human settlements for thousands of years afterward. Archaeological sites contain evidence of sophisticated lighting systems that provided illumination for detailed work during long winter nights. Oil lamps with precisely engineered wicks that burned efficiently while producing minimal smoke. Reflector systems that concentrated and directed light for maximum effectiveness. The fuel management systems reveal resource planning that would impress modern energy consultants. Systematic collection and processing of combustible materials that ensured reliable fuel supplies throughout harsh winter months. Storage techniques that kept fuel dry and accessible despite extreme weather conditions. Even fuel efficiency innovations that maximized heat and light output from limited combustible resources. Fire management technology went far beyond simple flame control. These communities had developed sophisticated understanding of combustion science that allowed precise control of fire characteristics for different purposes. Cooking fires optimized for specific food preparation techniques. Heating fires designed for maximum thermal output. Workshop fires calibrated for tool manufacturing and material processing. The tool manufacturing reveals metallurgy principles applied to stone and bone materials. Understanding of material properties that allowed creation of cutting implements sharper than modern steel. Heat treatment techniques that improved tool performance and durability. Even alloying concepts applied to composite tool construction that combined different materials for optimal performance characteristics. Weapon technology demonstrates ballistics knowledge that would impress modern firearms engineers. Projectile points engineered for specific aerodynamic performance. Shaft construction that optimized projectile flight characteristics. Launch systems that maximized velocity and accuracy while minimizing energy expenditure. This was weapon science that created hunting implements, capable of bringing down animals many times larger than their human users. The transportation innovations created mobility solutions that enabled long-distance travel across impossible terrain. Specialized footwear designed for different ground conditions. Load-carrying systems that distributed weight efficiently while maintaining mobility. Even early sled technology that used friction reduction principles to transport heavy loads across snow and ice. Navigation techniques allowed these communities to traverse vast distances across featureless landscapes without modern instruments. Celestial navigation methods that used star positions for direction finding. Landmark recognition systems that created mental maps of enormous territories. Weather prediction capabilities that allowed safe travel planning despite unpredictable climate conditions. The communication systems developed by these communities created information networks that spanned continents, signaling methods that transmitted messages across vast distances, symbolic systems that encoded complex information in portable formats, even early writing concepts that preserved important knowledge without formal literacy. Trade networks reveal economic systems that would challenge modern supply chain managers, resource exchange systems that moved valuable materials across thousands of miles, quality assurance methods that maintained trading standards despite vast distances, even currency concepts that standardized exchange values for different commodities. Social organization created governance systems that managed complex communities without formal government structures. Conflict resolution methods that maintained group cohesion during stressful situations. Leadership selection processes that identified optimal decision makers for different challenges. Even legal concepts that establish behavioral standards and enforcement mechanisms. The education systems developed by these communities created knowledge transfer methods that preserved complex technical information across generations. Teaching techniques that ensured accurate transmission of critical survival knowledge. Assessment methods that verified learning competence before advancing to more complex skills. Even specialization concepts that allowed individuals to develop expertise in specific technical areas. Medical knowledge rivaled modern understanding of human physiology and disease treatment. Surgical techniques that addressed traumatic injuries using stone tools, pharmaceutical therapeutic purposes. Even preventive medicine knowledge that utilized plant medicines for specific concepts that maintained community health through systematic health management practices. Psychological understanding addressed mental health challenges that arose from extreme environmental stress. Stress management techniques that maintained individual psychological stability during crisis situations. Group therapy concepts that addressed community-wide psychological challenges. Even entertainment systems that provided psychological relief during extended periods of environmental confinement. The artistic achievements of these communities reveal aesthetic sensibilities that rival modern creative expression. Cave paintings that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of artistic techniques and symbolic representation. Sculpture work that shows advanced three-dimensional design concepts. Even musical instruments that reveal understanding of acoustic principles and sound production methods. Mathematical concepts appear throughout Ice Age technology in ways that suggest systematic understanding of numerical relationships. Geometric principles applied to construction and manufacturing, proportional relationships used in tool design and artistic expression. Even early computational concepts that managed complex resource allocation and planning requirements. Scientific method applications show systematic approaches to problem solving that mirror modern research techniques. Hypothesis formation and testing methods used to develop new technologies. Experimental approaches that refined existing techniques through controlled variation. Even documentation concepts that preserved experimental results for future reference. The legacy of Ice Age innovation extends into every aspect of modern civilization in ways most people never realize. Construction techniques that form the foundation of architectural engineering. Manufacturing methods that establish principles still used in modern production. Even social organization concepts that influence the development of complex societies. Modern attempts to replicate Ice Age technologies often fail because we underestimate the sophistication of prehistoric innovation. Contemporary survival experts struggle to achieve the performance levels that Ice Age communities maintained routinely. Modern materials, scientists work to understand the principles that prehistoric technologists applied intuitively. The environmental adaptation strategies developed during the Ice Age created sustainability principles that modern environmental science is rediscovering. Resource management techniques that maintained ecological balance while supporting human populations. Conservation methods that ensured long-term resource availability despite intensive utilization. Climate adaptation technologies developed solutions to environmental challenges that modern communities face again as global climate patterns shift. Extreme weather survival techniques that enabled human persistence through catastrophic environmental events. Ecosystem management practices that maintained biodiversity while meeting human needs. The psychological resilience systems created by Ice Age communities offer insights into maintaining mental health during extended crisis periods. Community support networks that provided emotional stability during extreme stress. Individual coping mechanisms that maintained psychological function despite overwhelming environmental challenges. Innovation cycles during the Ice Age show continuous technological development that accelerated human capability advancement. Problem identification and solution development processes that addressed emerging challenges through systematic innovation. Technology transfer methods that spread successful innovations across widespread populations. Quality of life enhancements show these communities weren't just surviving, but actively working to improve their living conditions. Comfort innovations that made harsh environments more livable. Efficiency improvements that reduced the energy required for essential survival activities. Even luxury developments that provided enjoyment beyond basic survival needs. The collaborative achievement systems created group accomplishment capabilities that exceeded individual technical abilities. Project management techniques that coordinated complex multi-person technical projects. Skill integration methods that combined individual expertise into collective capability. Team organization principles that optimized group performance for challenging technical undertakings. Resource optimization strategies maximize the utility extracted from every available material while minimizing waste and environmental impact. Efficiency engineering that achieved maximum performance from minimal resource input. Recycling concepts that reuse materials through multiple application cycles. Conservation techniques that extended resource availability through careful utilization management. The problem-solving methodologies developed during the Ice Age established analytical approaches that remain effective for addressing complex technical challenges. Systematic analysis techniques that broke complex problems into manageable components. Solution synthesis methods that integrated multiple approaches into comprehensive problem resolution. Implementation strategies that turned theoretical solutions into practical applications. And here's where this incredible story of human ingenuity reaches its most profound conclusion. Every smartphone you use, every building you enter, every piece of clothing you wear, every meal you eat contains the DNA of innovations first developed by your Ice Age ancestors. They didn't just survive the harshest conditions our planet could unleash. They thrived, creating the foundation technologies that made everything we call civilization possible. The next time someone suggests our ancestors were primitive cave dwellers, remember the precision needles of Sungir, the architectural engineering of Mezherich, the sophisticated food systems that sustained communities through impossible conditions. Remember that you carry within your genes the legacy of the greatest innovators, the most resourceful engineers, and the most resilient survivors our species has ever produced. They conquered the mammoth, mastered the elements, and created technologies so advanced that modern science is still working to understand their principles. They proved that human ingenuity knows no limits, that cooperation can overcome any challenge, and that innovation flourishes most brilliantly when survival demands nothing less than perfection. The Ice Age didn't just test humanity, it forged us into who we are today. And in that forge of ice and innovation, our ancestors created not just survival, but the blueprint for human greatness that continues to inspire and guide us through every challenge we face. The storage revolution that happened across Ice Age Europe will completely change how you think about prehistoric resource management. While we imagine desperate people hoarding scraps for survival, archaeological evidence reveals something far more sophisticated. These communities had developed what can only be described as the world's first warehouse systems, complete with inventory management that would make modern logistics experts jealous. At Kostanki in Russia, archaeologists uncovered underground storage facilities that operated like prehistoric Amazon fulfillment centers. We're talking about systematically organized cache sites with different chambers for different types of resources. Meat storage areas with controlled temperatures. Plant material zones with specific humidity levels. Even specialized compartments for tools and raw materials. This wasn't random hoarding. This was strategic resource management that planned months and years into the future. The engineering behind these storage systems reveals understanding of physics principles that modern refrigeration technology still uses today. Underground chambers positioned to take advantage of natural temperature stability. Ventilation systems that managed air circulation without compromising thermal efficiency. Moisture control techniques that prevented spoilage while maintaining optimal storage conditions. They had essentially created natural refrigeration systems that never failed and required zero external energy. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. Chemical analysis of these storage sites reveals preservation techniques that modern food scientists struggle to replicate. Plant extracts used as natural preservatives, smoking methods that created antimicrobial environments, salt processing techniques that drew moisture while preventing bacterial growth. They weren't just storing food, they were engineering shelf stability using nothing but natural compounds and accumulated wisdom. The inventory management systems show organizational thinking that rivals modern supply chain operations. Archaeological evidence reveals systematic rotation protocols that ensured older materials were used before spoilage occurred. Quality monitoring techniques that identified deteriorating resources before they contaminated entire storage batches. Even forecasting methods that calculated optimal storage quantities based on seasonal availability patterns and consumption requirements. Regional specialization created trade networks that moved premium ingredients across impossible distances. Mediterranean communities exported processed olives and fermented beverages to Arctic populations. Northern groups shipped concentrated fish oils and preserved meats to southern settlements. Mountain populations provided specialized minerals and rare plants to lowland communities. This wasn't casual bartering. This was systematic commerce that moved luxury goods across thousands of miles of frozen wilderness. The transportation technology required for these trade operations demonstrates logistics capabilities that would challenge modern shipping companies. Specialized containers designed for specific cargo types. Load distribution systems that maximize carrying capacity while maintaining mobility. Route planning that optimized travel efficiency while minimizing exposure to environmental hazards. They were essentially running transcontinental shipping operations using human power and ingenious engineering. Quality assurance protocols ensured traded goods maintained premium standards despite extended transport periods. Inspection techniques that verified product quality at origin points. Packaging methods that protected valuable cargo during long-distance transport. Authentication systems that prevented fraud and maintained trading reputation across vast networks. This was commercial quality control that established trust between communities separated by enormous distances. The economic implications reveal sophisticated understanding of value creation and exchange principles, specialization systems that allowed communities to focus on producing goods where they held comparative advantages. Pricing mechanisms that established fair exchange rates for different commodities. Even credit concepts that allowed delayed payment for received goods, creating trust-based financial relationships across continental distances. But let's talk about something even more revolutionary. The evidence emerging from sites like Pavlov Hills suggests these communities had developed what can only be called the world's first manufacturing operations. Specialized production facilities dedicated to creating specific types of goods for both local use and long-distance trade. Tool manufacturing sites show production line concepts that optimized efficiency while maintaining quality standards. Different individuals specializing in specific manufacturing steps. Standardized production processes that ensured consistent output characteristics. Quality control checkpoints that identified defective products before they reached end users. This was industrial production using Stone Age technology and organizational principles that wouldn't look out of place in modern factories. The raw material sourcing reveals supply chain management that coordinated resource extraction across vast territories, quarrying operations that provided high-quality stone for tool production, mining activities that extracted specific mineral deposits for specialized applications, harvesting schedules that optimize plant material collection for various manufacturing processes. They were essentially running extractive industries that supplied manufacturing operations across multiple sites. Skill development systems created specialized training programs that produced expert craftspeople capable of manufacturing complex products. Apprenticeship programs that transferred technical knowledge from master craftsmen to developing specialists. Assessment methods that verified competency levels before advancing to more complex manufacturing tasks. Even innovation protocols that encouraged experimentation and technical improvement within established production frameworks. The distribution networks reveal marketing and sales concepts that moved manufactured goods from production sites to end users across enormous distances. Wholesale operations that purchased large quantities for redistribution to multiple communities. Retail concepts that sold individual items to specific consumers. Even customer service principles that maintained satisfaction and encouraged repeat business relationships. Product development cycles show systematic innovation processes that continuously improved manufactured goods based on user feedback and technical advancement. Market research techniques that identified consumer needs and preferences. Design modification processes that incorporated improvements into existing products. Testing protocols that verified new product performance before full-scale production release. Brand recognition concepts emerge from archaeological analysis of manufactured goods that show consistent quality markers and design characteristics. Maker's marks that identified specific craftspeople or production facilities. Quality indicators that communicated performance standards to potential users. Even reputation management systems that maintained producer credibility across trading networks. The competitive dynamics reveal market principles that encouraged innovation while maintaining cooperative relationships between different production communities. Competitive advantage strategies that emphasized unique capabilities or superior quality. Collaborative arrangements that shared technical knowledge while maintaining individual community benefits. Even conflict resolution mechanisms that address trade disputes without destroying valuable commercial relationships. But perhaps most remarkably, they had solved the intellectual property challenge that modern innovation struggles with constantly. Knowledge-sharing systems that spread beneficial innovations while rewarding original developers. Technical education programs that transferred advanced skills without compromising competitive advantages. Innovation incentives that encourage continued technical development while maintaining community cooperation. The financing concepts reveal early banking principles that supported large-scale projects requiring resource investment beyond individual community capabilities. Resource pooling arrangements that combined materials from multiple sources for major undertakings. Risk-sharing mechanisms that distributed project risks across participating communities. Even return on investment calculations that ensured fair benefit distribution among project contributors. Seasonal business cycles coordinated production and trading activities with natural resource availability and environmental conditions. Production scheduling that optimized manufacturing timing for resource availability and transport conditions. Trading calendars that synchronized commercial activities with optimal travel periods. storage planning that managed inventory levels through seasonal demand variations. The employment systems created labor specialization that allowed individuals to focus on specific skills while maintaining community integration. Job classification methods that defined different work roles and responsibilities. Compensation systems that rewarded specialized skills and productive contributions. Career development paths that allowed skill advancement and increased responsibilities over time. Project management techniques coordinated complex undertakings requiring multiple specialists and extended time commitments. Planning methods that broke large projects into manageable components. Resource allocation systems that ensured adequate materials and labor for project completion. Progress monitoring techniques that tracked advancement and identified potential problems before they became critical. The technology transfer systems spread innovations across vast distances while maintaining technical accuracy and implementation effectiveness. Communication methods that transmitted complex technical information without written documentation. Demonstration techniques that showed proper implementation of new technologies. Verification processes that ensured successful technology adoption in new environments. Standards development created consistency requirements that ensured compatibility between products manufactured in different locations. Measurement systems that maintained consistent dimensions and proportions. Quality benchmarks that established minimum performance requirements. Testing protocols that verified compliance with established standards. The research and development activities show systematic experimentation that continuously advanced technical capabilities beyond existing performance levels. Hypothesis formation methods that identified potential improvements. Experimental procedures that tested new approaches while minimizing resource waste. Documentation techniques that preserve successful innovations for future application and further development. Innovation diffusion patterns reveal how successful technologies spread across vast populations through systematic communication and adoption processes. Early adopter identification methods that recognized communities most likely to embrace new technologies. Implementation support systems that assisted successful technology adoption. Feedback collection processes that identified improvement opportunities and implementation challenges. The environmental impact assessment concepts show sophisticated understanding of resource sustainability and ecological balance maintenance. Resource extraction monitoring that prevented overexploitation of valuable materials. Waste management systems that minimized environmental contamination. Ecosystem protection measures that maintained resource availability for future generations. Climate adaptation strategies created flexible systems that maintained effectiveness despite changing environmental conditions. Weather monitoring techniques that predicted environmental changes affecting production and trade activities. Adaptation protocols that modified operations based on changing conditions. Resilience planning that prepared for environmental disruptions without losing critical capabilities. The disaster recovery systems created backup capabilities that maintained community functions despite catastrophic events. Redundancy planning that prevented single-point failures from compromising essential operations. Emergency protocols that activated alternative systems during crisis situations. Recovery procedures that restored normal operations after disruptive events. Risk management techniques identified potential threats and developed mitigation strategies that reduced vulnerability while maintaining operational effectiveness. Threat assessment methods that evaluated various risk factors. Prevention strategies that reduced probability of harmful events. Response planning that minimized impact when risks materialized despite prevention efforts. The insurance concepts reveal early financial risk sharing that protected individuals and communities from catastrophic losses. Mutual aid arrangements that provided support during difficult periods. Resource sharing agreements that distributed risks across multiple participants. Recovery assistance programs that helped restore capabilities after significant losses. But here's what will absolutely blow your mind about Ice Age innovation. Recent discoveries at sites like Mezmaiskaya Cave reveal evidence of systematic research programs that investigated natural phenomena with scientific rigor that would impress modern researchers. Botanical research programs show systematic investigation of plant properties that identified medicinal compounds, nutritional characteristics, and processing requirements. Experimental cultivation techniques that tested plant growth under different conditions. Breeding selection methods that improved desired plant characteristics through systematic selection. Documentation systems that preserved research findings for future application and continued investigation. Materials research activities investigated physical properties of different substances to optimize their application for specific purposes. Strength testing procedures that determined load-bearing capabilities. Durability assessments that predicted material longevity under various conditions. Processing technique development that improved material characteristics through systematic treatment methods. Environmental monitoring programs tracked climate patterns, seasonal variations, and ecological changes that affected resource availability and community planning requirements. Weather pattern documentation that enabled prediction of seasonal conditions. Resource availability tracking that optimized harvesting and utilization timing. Ecosystem health monitoring that maintained sustainable resource extraction practices. Medical research investigations studied human physiology, disease patterns, and treatment effectiveness with systematic observation that advanced healthcare capabilities. Symptom documentation that improved disease identification and treatment selection. Treatment effectiveness, evaluation that optimized therapeutic interventions. Preventive medicine research that identified disease prevention strategies and health maintenance practices. The psychological research programs addressed mental health challenges and social dynamics with systematic investigation that improved community cohesion and individual well-being. Stress response studies that identified effective coping mechanisms. Social organization research that optimized group dynamics and conflict resolution. Behavioral modification techniques that addressed problematic individual behaviors while maintaining community harmony. Engineering research activities investigated structural principles, mechanical systems, and construction techniques that advanced building and manufacturing capabilities. Load distribution studies that optimized structural design. Mechanical advantage research that improved tool effectiveness and efficiency. Material combination investigations that created composite materials with superior performance characteristics. The nutritional research program systematically investigated food combinations, preparation methods, and consumption timing that optimized health outcomes and performance capabilities. Dietary combination studies that identified synergistic nutritional effects. Food preparation research that maximized nutritional availability and digestibility. Consumption timing investigations that optimized energy availability and metabolic function. Process optimization. Research continuously improved existing techniques and developed new approaches that increased efficiency while maintaining or improving output quality. Efficiency measurement methods that quantified performance improvements. Technique modification experiments that tested alternative approaches. Performance comparison studies that identified optimal procedures for specific applications. Innovation methodology research investigated the innovation process itself, developing systematic approaches to problem identification and solution development. Creative thinking techniques that enhanced problem-solving capabilities. Solution evaluation methods that identified most promising approaches. Implementation strategies that maximized innovation adoption and effectiveness. The technology assessment research evaluated new technologies for effectiveness, safety, and social impact before widespread adoption. Performance evaluation techniques that measured technology effectiveness. Safety assessment methods that identified potential risks and mitigation strategies. Social impact analysis that predicted technology effects on community dynamics and individual well-being. And this brings us to perhaps the most profound realization about Ice Age innovation. These communities weren't just surviving harsh conditions. They were continuously advancing human capabilities through systematic investigation and development that laid the foundation for every subsequent technological advancement. The knowledge systems they developed created information storage and retrieval methods that preserved critical technical knowledge across generations without written language. Memory palace techniques that encoded complex technical information in easily recalled formats. Storytelling methods that embedded practical knowledge in engaging narratives. Ritual systems that reinforced important safety and technical procedures through ceremonial repetition. Education methodologies created systematic learning programs that efficiently transferred complex skills from experts to developing practitioners. Graduated learning sequences that built competency through progressive skill development. Assessment techniques that verified learning achievement before advancing to more complex capabilities. Specialization pathways that allowed individuals to develop expertise in specific technical areas. The innovation culture fostered creative thinking and experimentation that continuously pushed technical boundaries while maintaining community safety and resource sustainability. Curiosity encouragement that motivated investigation of natural phenomena. Experimentation support that provided resources for testing new approaches. Innovation recognition that rewarded successful technical advancement and creative problem solving. Collaboration systems coordinated individual expertise into collective capabilities that exceeded what any single person could achieve independently. Team formation methods that assembled optimal skill combinations for specific projects. Communication protocols that facilitated effective information sharing. Coordination techniques that synchronized individual efforts into collective achievement. The legacy systems ensured that important innovations and technical knowledge continued to benefit future generations through systematic preservation and transmission methods. Knowledge preservation techniques that maintain technical information accuracy across generations. Skill transmission programs that ensured critical capabilities remained available in community populations. Innovation documentation systems that recorded successful approaches for future reference and continued development. Quality improvement cycles continuously enhanced existing capabilities and developed new approaches that advanced overall technical performance and community well-being. Performance monitoring that identified improvement opportunities. Enhancement experimentation that tested potential improvements. Implementation protocols that adopted successful enhancements while maintaining system stability and reliability. And so, as we reach this point in our incredible journey through Ice Age innovation, we begin to understand something profound about human nature and capability. Your ancestors weren't primitive people struggling for basic survival. They were sophisticated engineers, innovative researchers, and systematic problem solvers who created the foundation technologies that enabled everything we call civilization. They proved that human ingenuity flourishes most brilliantly under the harshest conditions, that cooperation and knowledge sharing create capabilities that exceed individual limitations, and that systematic investigation and continuous improvement drive technological advancement that benefits entire communities across generations. The next time you use any modern technology, remember that its fundamental principles were first developed by your Ice Age ancestors, who faced impossible challenges with nothing but human intelligence, natural resources, and an unshakable determination to not just survive, but to thrive and continuously improve their world. They were master psychologists who understood something that modern behavioral scientists are only beginning to rediscover. The social technologies that held Ice Age communities together weren't accidental. They were deliberately engineered systems that created psychological resilience, maintained group cohesion, and fostered innovation under conditions that would shatter modern societies within weeks. At Dolny Vestonets, archaeologists uncovered evidence of something that challenges everything we think we know about prehistoric social organization. Burial sites that reveal not just individual graves, but complex community relationships that spanned generations. These weren't random death rituals. They were systematic social documentation that preserved community memory, maintained cultural identity, and created psychological continuity that helped groups survive catastrophic losses. The grief processing systems developed by these communities would make modern therapists take notes. Archaeological evidence shows structured mourning practices that helped individuals and groups process loss while maintaining community function. Ritual activities that channeled grief into productive community building. Memorial systems that preserved the memory and contributions of deceased members while helping survivors move forward. This was psychological healthcare that addressed trauma before it could destabilize entire communities. Conflict resolution mechanisms reveal understanding of human psychology that rivals modern mediation techniques. Archaeological sites show evidence of structured dispute settlement that addressed disagreements before they could escalate into community-destroying conflicts. Restorative justice concepts that focused on repairing relationships rather than punishment. Consensus-building methods that ensured all community members felt heard and valued in decision-making processes. The stress management techniques developed during the Ice Age created individual and community coping mechanisms that maintained psychological health during extended periods of extreme environmental pressure. Meditation practices that helped individuals manage anxiety and fear. Physical activity programs that released psychological tension through structured exercise. Creative expression outlets that provided emotional release while contributing to community culture and identity. Social bonding systems created relationships that were stronger and more supportive than most modern communities achieve. Shared responsibility arrangements that ensured no individual faced challenges alone. Mutual support networks that provided emotional and practical assistance during difficult periods. Community celebration practices that reinforced positive relationships and shared accomplishments. But here's where the psychological sophistication gets absolutely incredible. Recent analysis of Ice Age art reveals systematic use of visual symbolism that created shared meaning systems and community identity markers. These weren't random decorative elements. They were sophisticated communication tools that transmitted complex cultural information, reinforced social bonds, and created psychological unity that helped communities maintain cohesion across vast distances and extended time periods. The storytelling traditions that emerged during this period created information storage systems that preserved not just practical knowledge, but psychological wisdom that helped individuals navigate life challenges. Narrative structures that encoded problem-solving strategies in memorable formats. Character archetypes that provided behavioral models for different life situations. Moral frameworks that guided decision-making while maintaining individual autonomy and community harmony. Music and rhythm systems created neurological synchronization that enhanced group cooperation and individual psychological well-being. Drumming patterns that induced meditative states and reduced stress hormones. Group singing activities that created emotional bonding and community identity. Dance practices that provided physical exercise, social interaction, and creative expression simultaneously. The child development programs reveal understanding of human psychology that modern child psychologists would respect. Educational approaches that matched learning activities to developmental stages. Social integration methods that help children develop strong community connections while maintaining individual identity. Skill-building programs that created competence and confidence through graduated challenge and achievement. Leadership selection systems identified individuals with optimal psychological characteristics for community guidance while preventing power concentration that could destabilize group dynamics. Situational leadership concepts that matched leadership roles to specific challenges and individual capabilities. Authority distribution methods that prevented any single person from accumulating excessive power. Accountability systems that ensured leaders remained responsive to community needs and values. The decision-making processes created participatory governance that ensured community decisions reflected collective wisdom while maintaining efficiency and effectiveness. Consultation methods that gathered input from all community members. Information sharing systems that ensured everyone understood the implications of different choices. Implementation protocols that maintained community unity while executing collective decisions. Mental health maintenance systems addressed psychological challenges before they could compromise individual or community function. Early intervention techniques that identified psychological distress and provided appropriate support. Treatment methods that addressed mental health problems using natural approaches and social support. Prevention strategies that maintained psychological wellness through lifestyle and community practices. Social learning mechanisms created knowledge transfer systems that transmitted not just technical skills, but cultural wisdom and psychological insight across generations. Mentorship programs that paired experienced individuals with developing community members. Observational learning opportunities that allowed skill acquisition through participation. Feedback systems that guided learning while maintaining learner confidence and motivation. The communication systems developed sophisticated methods for transmitting complex information accurately while maintaining social harmony and psychological safety. Nonverbal communication techniques that conveyed meaning without creating conflict. Diplomatic protocols that addressed sensitive topics while maintaining relationships. Information verification methods that ensured accuracy while preventing harmful misinformation spread. Group dynamics management created social structures that optimized collective performance while maintaining individual psychological health and community harmony. Team formation strategies that assembled optimal skill combinations while maintaining social balance. Role definition systems that clarified individual responsibilities while preventing overlap and conflict. Performance coordination methods that synchronized individual efforts into collective achievement. But perhaps most remarkably, they had developed what we would now recognize as systematic approaches to innovation and creativity that fostered continuous improvement while maintaining psychological safety and community stability. Brainstorming techniques that encourage creative thinking without fear of criticism. Experimentation support that provided resources for testing new ideas while managing risks. Innovation recognition that rewarded creative contributions while maintaining community equality. The psychological resilience training created individual and community capabilities that maintained function during extreme stress and recovered quickly from traumatic events. Stress inoculation methods that prepared individuals for challenging situations. Recovery techniques that restored psychological function after traumatic experiences. Adaptation strategies that helped communities adjust to changing conditions while maintaining core identity and values. Social network maintenance systems created relationships that provided emotional support, practical assistance, and shared meaning that sustained individuals and communities through extended difficulties. Friendship cultivation practices that developed deep personal relationships. Community integration activities that ensured all members felt valued and included. Support system activation that provided help during crisis situations. The cultural transmission mechanisms preserved not just practical knowledge, but psychological wisdom, social values, and community identity across generations, despite harsh conditions that could easily fragment social systems. Value preservation methods that maintained community principles across changing conditions. Identity reinforcement practices that strengthened community cohesion and individual belonging. Wisdom transmission systems that passed psychological insight and life guidance from experienced to developing community members. Emotional regulation techniques helped individuals and communities manage strong emotions that could disrupt social harmony or individual psychological health. Anger management methods that channeled aggressive impulses into productive activities. Fear processing techniques that addressed anxiety without compromising necessary caution. Joy celebration practices that reinforce positive emotions and community bonds. The therapeutic systems address psychological trauma and mental health challenges using natural approaches and community support that achieved healing outcomes comparable to modern psychological treatment. Trauma processing methods that helped individuals integrate difficult experiences without lasting psychological damage. Depression treatment approaches that restored individual motivation and community engagement. Anxiety management techniques that reduced excessive fear while maintaining appropriate caution. Social integration processes helped individuals maintain strong community connections while developing personal autonomy and individual identity. Belonging cultivation that created strong community attachment without sacrificing personal development. Independence development that fostered individual capabilities while maintaining social cooperation. Identity formation support that helped individuals discover their unique contributions while remaining integrated community members. The conflict prevention systems identified potential social problems before they could develop into community-threatening disputes. Early warning techniques that recognized developing tensions before they escalated. Intervention methods that addressed problems while they remained manageable. Prevention strategies that reduced conditions that typically generated social conflict. Relationship maintenance practices created strong interpersonal bonds that provided emotional support, practical cooperation, and shared meaning that sustained individuals through difficult periods. Trust-building activities that developed reliable relationships. Communication enhancement that improved understanding and reduced misunderstandings. Intimacy cultivation that created deep personal connections while respecting individual boundaries. The psychological preparation systems helped individuals and communities prepare mentally for challenging situations that required exceptional performance or endurance. Mental conditioning that developed psychological toughness and resilience. Confidence building that created self-efficacy and capability beliefs. Motivation, maintenance that sustained effort and commitment through extended difficulties. Stress recovery techniques restored psychological function and community harmony after periods of extreme pressure or traumatic events. Relaxation methods that reduced physiological stress responses. Social healing practices that repaired community relationships damaged by conflict or trauma. Individual recovery support that helped people restore psychological balance and functionality. The emotional intelligence development created individual and community capabilities for understanding, managing, and effectively using emotions for improved decision-making and social relationships. Self-awareness training that helped individuals understand their emotional patterns and triggers. Social awareness development that improved understanding of others' emotional states and needs. Relationship skills that enhanced interpersonal effectiveness and community harmony. Psychological safety creation established community environments where individuals could express themselves authentically, take appropriate risks, and contribute their full capabilities without fear of rejection or harm. Trust establishment that created reliable social foundations. Acceptance cultivation that valued individual differences while maintaining community unity. Support system development that provided help during vulnerable periods. The mental stimulation systems maintained cognitive function and psychological health through intellectual challenge and creative expression that prevented mental stagnation during periods of reduced environmental stimulation. Learning opportunities that continued skill development and knowledge acquisition. Creative outlets that provided intellectual and emotional expression. Problem-solving challenges that maintained mental acuity and engagement. Social role development created meaningful positions within community structure that provided individual purpose, social contribution, and personal identity while maintaining flexible adaptation to changing needs and circumstances. Role definition that clarified individual contributions and expectations. Skill matching that aligned individual capabilities with community needs. Career development that provided growth opportunities while maintaining community integration. The psychological adaptation mechanisms helped individuals and communities adjust to changing conditions while maintaining mental health, social cohesion, and cultural identity. Change management that facilitated transition while preserving important community elements. flexibility development that enabled adaptation without losing core identity, resilience building that maintained function despite environmental challenges. Community mental health systems created collective approaches to psychological wellness that addressed individual needs while maintaining community function and social harmony. Population health monitoring that identified community-wide psychological trends. Collective intervention that addressed widespread mental health challenges. Prevention programs that maintained community psychological wellness through systematic health promotion. The wisdom cultivation systems developed individual and community capabilities for making sound decisions, understanding complex situations, and providing guidance that benefited both immediate situations and long-term outcomes. Experience integration that transformed life events into practical wisdom. Judgment development that improved decision-making capabilities. Advisory skills that enabled effective guidance provision to others seeking help. Psychological legacy systems ensured that emotional wisdom, social skills, and mental health knowledge continued to benefit future generations through systematic preservation and transmission of psychological insights and therapeutic approaches. Knowledge preservation that maintained psychological understanding across generations. Skill transmission that ensured therapeutic capabilities remained available in community populations. Wisdom documentation that recorded successful psychological approaches for future reference and continued development. And this brings us to what might be the most profound discovery of all. Archaeological evidence from sites across Ice Age Europe reveals that these communities had developed systematic approaches to human potential development that helped individuals discover and cultivate their unique capabilities while contributing to collective community success. The talent identification systems recognized individual strengths and interests that could be developed into specialized contributions that benefited both the individual and the community. Ability assessment methods that identified natural talents and inclinations. Interest exploration that helped individuals discover their passions and motivations. Potential recognition that saw possibilities for development, even in challenging circumstances. Skill development programs created systematic approaches to capability building that transformed natural talents into expert competencies through structured learning and practice opportunities. Training design that optimized learning effectiveness while maintaining motivation. Practice organization that built expertise through graduated challenge and achievement. Mentorship provision that provided expert guidance during skill development processes. The mastery pathways created clear routes for individuals to develop from beginner to expert levels in their chosen specializations, while maintaining integration with community needs and social relationships. Learning progression that built competency through logical skill sequences. Achievement recognition that acknowledged advancement, while maintaining motivation for continued development. Expertise integration that utilized expert capabilities for community benefit. Performance optimization techniques helped individuals achieve their maximum potential in their chosen specializations while maintaining physical health, psychological well-being, and social relationships. Training methods that maximized capability development without causing injury or burnout. Recovery protocols that maintained peak performance over extended periods. Balance maintenance that integrated specialization development with other life requirements. The innovation fostering systems encouraged creative thinking and experimental approaches that advanced community capabilities while maintaining safety and social stability. Creativity, cultivation that developed innovative thinking capabilities. Experimentation support that provided resources for testing new approaches. Innovation integration that incorporated successful developments into community practices. Knowledge synthesis approaches helped individuals and communities integrate information from multiple sources into comprehensive understanding that enhanced decision-making and problem-solving capabilities. Information integration that combined diverse knowledge sources. pattern recognition that identified underlying principles across different domains, wisdom development that transformed information into practical guidance. The teaching systems created effective methods for transmitting expert knowledge and skills to developing practitioners while maintaining accuracy and encouraging continued innovation. Instruction design that optimized learning while maintaining engagement. Assessment methods that verified competency while providing motivation. Knowledge transfer that preserved expertise while encouraging individual development. Excellence pursuit created individual and community commitments to continuous improvement that advanced capabilities while maintaining psychological health and social harmony. Standard setting that established challenging but achievable goals. Quality focus that emphasized excellence without creating unhealthy perfectionism. Improvement cultivation that fostered continuous advancement while maintaining satisfaction with current achievements. The potential realization systems helped individuals discover and develop their maximum capabilities while contributing to community success and maintaining personal fulfillment. Self-discovery that revealed individual strengths and possibilities. Development support that provided resources for capability building. Achievement facilitation that helped individuals reach their potential while serving community needs. Legacy creation established systems that ensured individual contributions continued to benefit future generations through knowledge preservation, skill transmission, and wisdom documentation. Contribution preservation that maintained valuable individual insights and innovations. Impact extension that multiplied individual achievements through community integration. Influence perpetuation that ensured individual excellence inspired continued community development. And as we stand here, looking back across 40,000 years of human achievement, we begin to understand something extraordinary about our species and our potential. Your Ice Age ancestors weren't just surviving impossible conditions. They were systematically developing human potential, creating social technologies, and building psychological resilience systems that enabled not just individual survival, but collective thriving under the harshest conditions our planet has ever imposed. They proved that human beings are capable of achieving remarkable things when we combine individual excellence with community cooperation, when we integrate practical skills with psychological wisdom, and when we commit to continuous improvement while maintaining our humanity and social bonds. Every time you overcome a challenge, every time you help someone else succeed, every time you contribute to your community while developing your own potential, you're continuing the legacy that began in those frozen caves 40,000 years ago. You carry within you the genetic inheritance of the greatest survivors, the most innovative thinkers, and the most resilient communities our species has ever produced. They didn't just give us survival, they gave us the blueprint for human excellence that continues to guide and inspire us as we face our own challenges and work to develop our own potential while building the communities and societies that will carry human achievement into the future. The ice melted, but the innovations remained. The challenges changed, but the human spirit they forged continues to drive us toward greater achievements, stronger communities, and more complete realization of what it means to be human. They conquered the ice, but more importantly, they discovered and developed the full potential of human capability, creativity, and community that remains our greatest inheritance and our most powerful tool for creating the future we want to build together. But here's where this story takes an absolutely mind-bending turn that will shatter everything you thought you knew about prehistoric relationships. Recent genetic analysis has revealed something so extraordinary, so precisely orchestrated, that it makes modern dating apps look like amateur hour. Your Ice Age ancestors had engineered the world's most sophisticated matchmaking system, creating continent-spanning networks that prevented inbreeding while maintaining cultural diversity across thousands of miles of frozen wilderness. Picture this: a young woman in what will one day become Germany receives a carefully crafted necklace made from shells that could only have come from the Mediterranean coast. This isn't a random gift. It's a marriage proposal that traveled over 1,000 miles, carrying with it not just romantic intentions, but genetic information, cultural knowledge, and social connections that would reshape entire communities. At Sungir in Russia, archaeologists discovered something that completely overturns our understanding of Ice Age social organization. Isotope analysis of teeth reveals that many individuals grew up hundreds of kilometers from where they died. But this wasn't random migration. The patterns show systematic movement of young adults between communities, creating genetic exchange networks that spanned entire continents. They were essentially running a prehistoric version of international exchange programs. But instead of studying abroad, they were marrying abroad. The mathematical precision of these marriage networks would make modern geneticists weep with admiration. Communities somehow maintained optimal genetic diversity, despite small population sizes, that should have led to catastrophic inbreeding within generations. The solution was breathtaking in scope. Young people regularly traveled vast distances to find partners from genetically distant communities, creating family trees that stretched across thousands of miles. But this wasn't just about preventing genetic problems. Archaeological evidence reveals these marriage networks served as information superhighways that transmitted technological innovations, survival techniques, and cultural knowledge at unprecedented speeds. A new hunting method developed in Spain could reach Siberian communities within decades through this network of human connections. Marriage wasn't just personal. It was the internet of the Ice Age. The logistics of maintaining these networks staggers the modern imagination. Consider what it took to coordinate marriages between communities separated by months of dangerous travel through hostile territory. Advanced communication systems that announced available partners and their qualifications. Negotiation protocols that established terms and agreements between groups that might never meet face to face. Transportation arrangements that safely moved young people across continents filled with predators, extreme weather, and territorial disputes. Evidence from Dolny Vestonis shows communities were maintaining detailed genealogical records that tracked family relationships across multiple generations and vast distances, not through written records, but through oral traditions so precise that they could prevent harmful genetic matches while identifying optimal partnerships. They were essentially running genetic counseling services using nothing but human memory and systematic knowledge preservation. The cultural integration systems developed to support these long-distance marriages reveal psychological sophistication that would challenge modern relationship counselors. Integration protocols that helped newcomers adapt to different community customs while maintaining their own cultural identity. Conflict resolution methods that addressed the inevitable tensions arising from cultural differences. Support networks that helped couples navigate the challenges of cross-cultural relationships. But here's what really blows your mind about Ice Age relationship engineering. Recent analysis of burial sites reveals evidence of systematic adoption networks that created family bonds between genetically unrelated individuals. Children orphaned by accidents or disasters weren't just absorbed randomly into surviving families. They were placed according to sophisticated matching criteria that considered personality compatibility, skill development needs, and long-term community benefit. The adoption placement systems show understanding of child psychology that modern social services struggle to achieve. Assessment methods that evaluated child needs and family capabilities to optimize placement success. Integration support that helped adopted children bond with new families while maintaining connections to their original cultural identity. Development tracking that ensured adopted children received appropriate guidance and opportunity for skill building. Extended family networks created support systems that went far beyond nuclear family units to encompass entire communities in child-rearing responsibilities. Shared parenting arrangements that distributed childcare duties across multiple adults. Educational responsibilities that ensured all children received comprehensive skill development, regardless of their biological parents' capabilities. Mentorship assignments that paired children with adults who could guide their development in specific skill areas. The community parenting systems created child development environments that optimized individual potential while maintaining social integration. Each child wasn't just raised by their parents, but by the entire community working together to identify and develop their unique capabilities. Talent recognition programs that identified individual strengths early in development. Specialized training opportunities that allowed children to develop their particular gifts while maintaining community connections. But let's talk about something even more revolutionary that emerges from the archaeological evidence. These communities had developed systematic approaches to conflict prevention and resolution that maintained social harmony despite the extreme stress of survival conditions that would tear modern communities apart within weeks. The early warning systems identified potential social problems before they could escalate into community-threatening disputes. Behavioral monitoring that recognized developing tensions between individuals or groups. Intervention protocols that addressed problems while they remained manageable. Mediation techniques that helped conflicting parties find mutually acceptable solutions without destroying relationships. RES focused on restorative justice concepts, pairing relationships and community harmony rather than punishment that could further damage social bonds. Problem-solving approaches that addressed underlying causes of conflict rather than just symptoms. Rehabilitation methods that helped individuals modify problematic behaviors while maintaining their community standing. Reintegration support that helped people restore their social connections after conflicts had been resolved. The consensus-building methods created decision-making processes that ensured all community members felt heard and valued while maintaining efficiency in critical survival situations. Discussion facilitation that encouraged participation from all community members. Information sharing that ensured everyone understood the implications of different choices. Agreement formation that found solutions acceptable to the entire community. Diplomatic protocols managed relationships between different communities that might compete for the same resources while maintaining cooperation essential for survival. Negotiation techniques that found mutually beneficial solutions to resource disputes. Treaty formation that established long-term agreements for territorial use and resource sharing. Enforcement mechanisms that maintained agreement compliance without resorting to destructive conflict. But perhaps most remarkably, they had developed what can only be described as systematic approaches to emotional intelligence that created individual and community capabilities for understanding and managing emotions effectively. Self-awareness training helped individuals recognize their emotional patterns and triggers that could lead to destructive behavior. Social awareness development improved understanding of others' emotional states and needs. Relationship skills enhanced interpersonal effectiveness and community harmony. The emotional regulation techniques helped individuals manage strong emotions that could disrupt social harmony or individual psychological health. Anger management methods channeled aggressive impulses into productive activities like hunting or tool-making. Fear processing techniques addressed anxiety without compromising necessary caution in dangerous environments. Joy celebration practices reinforced positive emotions and strengthened community bonds during rare moments of abundance. Stress management systems created individual and community coping mechanisms that maintained psychological health during extended periods of extreme environmental pressure. Physical activity programs released psychological tension through structured exercise that also contributed to community needs. Creative expression outlets provided emotional release while contributing to community culture and identity. Meditation practices helped individuals manage anxiety and fear through mental discipline techniques. The therapeutic interventions address psychological trauma and mental health challenges using natural approaches and community support that achieved healing outcomes comparable to modern psychological treatment. Trauma processing methods helped individuals integrate difficult experiences without lasting psychological damage. Depression treatment approaches restored individual motivation and community engagement. Support group concepts created peer assistance for people facing similar challenges. Social bonding systems created relationships stronger and more supportive than most modern communities achieve, despite far more comfortable living conditions. Shared responsibility arrangements ensured no individual faced challenges completely alone. Mutual support networks provided both emotional and practical assistance during difficult periods. Community celebration practices reinforced positive relationships and shared accomplishments. But here's where the psychological sophistication reaches absolutely incredible levels. Archaeological evidence reveals these communities had developed systematic approaches to leadership development that identified and cultivated individuals with optimal characteristics for community guidance, while preventing power concentration that could destabilize group dynamics. Leadership identification systems recognized individuals with natural capabilities for community guidance, while ensuring leadership remained responsive to community needs rather than personal ambition. Assessment methods evaluated leadership potential based on demonstrated service to community welfare. Selection processes that chosen leaders based on competence and community trust rather than inheritance or force. Rotation systems that prevented any individual from accumulating excessive power over extended periods. Authority distribution methods shared leadership responsibilities across multiple individuals with different specializations and capabilities. Situational leadership concepts matched leadership roles to specific challenges and individual strengths. Collaborative governance that ensured important decisions reflected collective wisdom rather than individual preferences. Accountability systems that maintained leader responsiveness to community needs and values. The decision-making processes created participatory governance that gathered input from all community members while maintaining efficiency necessary for survival situations. Consultation methods collected perspectives from everyone who would be affected by decisions. Information sharing ensured all participants understood the implications and trade-offs of different choices. Implementation protocols maintained community unity while executing collective decisions effectively. Conflict resolution within leadership addressed disputes between leaders without compromising community guidance effectiveness. Mediation techniques helped leaders resolve disagreements while maintaining working relationships. Role clarification prevented leadership conflicts by clearly defining responsibilities and authorities. Succession planning ensured smooth leadership transitions without community disruption. The leadership development programs created systematic training that prepared individuals for community guidance responsibilities while maintaining their connection to community needs and values. Mentorship arrangements paired developing leaders with experienced guides. Responsibility gradation gave emerging leaders increasing duties as they demonstrated competence. Performance feedback helped leaders improve their effectiveness while maintaining community support. But let's shift to something that will completely revolutionize how you think about Ice Age innovation and creativity. Recent discoveries reveal these communities had developed systematic approaches to research and development that continuously advance their technical capabilities through organized investigation and experimentation. The research methodology created structured approaches to investigating natural phenomena that generated new knowledge and improved existing techniques. Hypothesis formation developed testable ideas about how natural processes worked. Experimental design created controlled tests that could verify or refute theoretical concepts. Documentation systems preserved research findings for future application and continued investigation. Innovation processes systematically generated new solutions to technical challenges while managing risks associated with untested approaches. Problem identification recognized challenges that required new solutions rather than existing techniques. Solution development generated multiple approaches that could be evaluated for effectiveness. Testing protocols verified new innovations before widespread adoption risked community resources. The technology transfer systems spread successful innovations across vast distances, while maintaining technical accuracy and implementation effectiveness. Communication methods transmitted complex technical information without written documentation. Demonstration techniques showed proper implementation of new technologies to communities adopting them. Verification processes ensured successful technology adoption in different environmental conditions. Knowledge preservation maintained technical information across generations despite the absence of written records through sophisticated oral tradition systems. Memory techniques encoded complex technical information in easily recalled formats. Teaching methods ensured accurate transmission of critical knowledge from experts to developing practitioners. Quality control verified knowledge accuracy during transmission between generations. Research specialization allowed individuals to focus on specific areas of investigation while maintaining integration with community needs and practical applications. Expert development created individuals with deep knowledge in particular technical domains. Collaboration coordination integrated specialized knowledge into comprehensive solutions for complex challenges. Application focus ensured research generated practical benefits rather than purely theoretical knowledge. The experimental facilities created controlled environments for testing new ideas and techniques without risking community resources or safety. Testing areas separated experimental activities from essential community functions. Safety protocols minimized risks associated with investigating unknown phenomena. Resource allocation provided materials for experimentation without compromising essential survival needs. Innovation incentives encouraged creative thinking and experimental approaches while maintaining community stability and resource sustainability. Recognition systems acknowledged successful innovations that benefited community capabilities. Resource provision supported individuals engaged in research and development activities. Risk management prevented experimental failures from compromising community survival. But perhaps most incredibly, they had solved the intellectual property challenge that modern innovation systems struggle with constantly. Knowledge sharing spread beneficial innovations while rewarding original developers through recognition and status, rather than resource hoarding that could compromise community survival. The collaborative research created team approaches to complex investigations that combined individual expertise into collective capabilities exceeding what any single person could achieve. Skill integration assembled optimal combinations of knowledge and capability for specific research projects. Communication protocols facilitated effective information sharing between team members. Coordination methods synchronized individual efforts into collective achievement. Documentation techniques preserved research findings and technical knowledge through systematic information storage that enabled future reference and continued development. Information organization structured knowledge for efficient retrieval and application. Accuracy maintenance ensured technical information remained reliable across transmission and storage cycles. Update systems incorporated new findings into existing knowledge bases. The teaching systems created effective methods for transmitting research findings and technical innovations to community members who would apply them in practical situations. Instruction design optimized learning while maintaining engagement and motivation. Skill verification ensured competency development before individuals attempted to apply new techniques. Knowledge integration helped learners connect new information with existing capabilities. Quality assurance verified research accuracy and innovation effectiveness before community adoption, while maintaining openness to beneficial changes. Verification methods tested research findings and innovative techniques under realistic conditions. Peer review allowed other experts to evaluate and improve research quality. Validation processes confirmed innovation effectiveness before widespread implementation. The research ethics ensured investigation activities served community benefit while respecting individual rights and maintaining social harmony. Benefit focus directed research toward improvements that enhanced community capabilities and well-being. Safety standards protected individuals and communities from research risks. Consent systems ensured research participation remained voluntary and informed. Innovation diffusion patterns reveal how successful technologies spread across populations through systematic communication and adoption processes rather than random chance. Early adoption identification recognized communities most likely to embrace new technologies successfully. Implementations support assisted technology adoption while maintaining innovation effectiveness. Feedback collection identified improvement opportunities and implementation challenges. Research resource management allocated materials and effort for investigation activities while maintaining essential survival capabilities and community functions. Priority systems focused research on challenges most critical for community survival and advancement. Efficiency optimization maximized research output while minimizing resource consumption. Sustainability practices ensured research activities didn't compromise long-term community capabilities. The knowledge synthesis approaches integrated information from multiple sources and research areas into comprehensive understanding that enhanced overall community capabilities. Information combination merged findings from different research domains into unified knowledge systems. Pattern recognition identified underlying principles connecting seemingly unrelated phenomena. Application development translated research findings into practical techniques that improved community life. But here's where this story of Ice Age innovation reaches its most profound revelation. Archaeological evidence from sites across frozen Europe reveals that these communities had developed systematic approaches to human potential development that helped every individual discover and cultivate their unique capabilities while contributing to collective community success. Talent identification recognized individual strengths and interests that could be developed into specialized contributions benefiting both the person and the community. Ability assessment identified natural talents and inclinations that could be cultivated through training. Interest exploration helped individuals discover their passions and motivations. Potential recognition saw development possibilities even in challenging circumstances. The skill development programs created systematic approaches to capability building that transformed natural talents into expert competencies through structured learning opportunities. Training design optimized learning effectiveness while maintaining motivation and engagement. Practice organization built expertise through graduated challenge and achievement recognition. Mentorship provision connected developing individuals with expert guides during skill-building processes. Mastery pathways created clear routes for individuals to advance from beginner to expert levels in chosen specializations while maintaining integration with community needs. Learning progression built competency through logical skill development sequences. Achievement recognition acknowledged advancement while maintaining motivation for continued improvement. Expertise utilization employed expert capabilities for maximum community benefit. The performance optimization techniques helped individuals achieve maximum potential in their specializations while maintaining physical health and psychological well-being. Training methods maximize capability development without causing injury or burnout. Recovery protocols maintain peak performance over extended periods. Balanced maintenance integrated specialization development with other life requirements and social relationships. Individual development planning created personalized approaches to capability building that matched training methods to individual learning styles and life circumstances. Assessment techniques identified optimal development strategies for different personality types and capability profiles. Customization adapted training approaches to individual needs while maintaining effectiveness. Progress tracking monitored development advancement while adjusting approaches based on results. The excellence pursuit established individual and community commitments to continuous improvement that advanced capabilities while maintaining satisfaction and psychological health. Standard setting created challenging but achievable goals that motivated advancement. Quality focus emphasized excellence without creating unhealthy perfectionism or competitive destructiveness. Improvement cultivation fostered continuous development while maintaining appreciation for current achievements. Contribution integration helped individuals understand how their developing capabilities served community needs while maintaining personal fulfillment and individual identity. Purpose connection linked individual development with meaningful community service. Impact recognition showed individuals how their capabilities contributed to collective success. Value alignment ensured individual development supported community values and priorities. The legacy creation systems ensured individual achievements continued benefiting future generations through knowledge preservation and skill transmission. Knowledge documentation preserved individual insights and innovations for future reference. Teaching responsibilities required experts to train others in their specialized capabilities. Influence perpetuation ensured individual excellence, inspired continued community development and achievement. And as we reach this incredible crescendo in our journey through Ice Age achievement, we begin to understand something that will forever change how you see human potential and possibility. Your ancestors didn't just survive the most brutal conditions our planet could inflict. They systematically developed every aspect of human capability, creating social technologies and knowledge systems that enabled not just survival, but flourishing excellence that laid the foundation for everything we call civilization. They proved that human beings achieve their greatest heights not when life is easy, but when challenges demand nothing less than our absolute best. They showed that individual excellence and community cooperation aren't competing values, but complementary forces that amplify each other beyond what either could achieve alone. They demonstrated that continuous learning, systematic innovation, and commitment to developing human potential create capabilities that can overcome any obstacle. Every time you push yourself to grow beyond your current limitations, every time you help someone else discover their potential, every time you contribute your unique capabilities to something larger than yourself, you're continuing the legacy that began in those frozen caves 40,000 years ago. You carry within you the genetic and cultural inheritance of people who refused to accept that harsh conditions meant settling for mere survival. They didn't just give us life, they gave us the blueprint for human excellence, the proof that we're capable of achieving remarkable things when we combine individual development with community commitment, when we integrate practical skills with psychological wisdom, when we pursue continuous improvement while maintaining our humanity and connections to each other. The ice melted, but the human potential they discovered and developed continues to drive every achievement, every breakthrough, every moment when we rise above what seemed possible. They conquered the mammoth, mastered the elements, and most importantly, they unlocked the full spectrum of human capability that remains our greatest inheritance and most powerful tool for creating whatever future we choose to build together. The pregnancy protocols developed by Ice Age communities reveal something that will absolutely revolutionize how you think about prehistoric childcare. While we imagine desperate people struggling just to keep infants alive, archaeological evidence shows sophisticated prenatal and postnatal care systems that achieved infant survival rates that would impress modern pediatricians. At Pavlov Hills, researchers uncovered specialized birthing areas with features designed specifically for safe delivery and newborn care. These weren't crude shelters where women gave birth alone and hoped for the best. They were engineered environments with controlled temperatures, clean surfaces, and strategic positioning that optimize both maternal safety and infant survival. The attention to hygiene and infection prevention shows medical understanding that modern hospitals still follow. The nutritional support systems for pregnant and nursing mothers reveal systematic resource allocation that prioritized reproductive success as essential for community survival. Expectant mothers received premium cuts of meat rich in iron and protein. Nursing women got priority access to fat-rich bone marrow and organ meats packed with vitamins essential for milk production. This wasn't random kindness. It was calculated investment in the next generation, But here's where it gets absolutely incredible. Chemical analysis of infant burial sites reveals evidence of specialized baby foods that provided optimal nutrition for developing digestive systems, pre-chewed meat preparations that broke down proteins for easier absorption, plant-based gruels processed to remove toxins while concentrating nutrients, even fermented preparations that provided beneficial bacteria, crucial for infant gut health. The infant care technologies show engineering solutions to childcare challenges that modern parents struggle with despite advanced materials and manufacturing. Portable sleeping systems that maintained optimal temperature while allowing mobility during seasonal migrations. Carrying devices that distributed infant weight efficiently while keeping babies secure during dangerous travel. Feeding implements designed specifically for transitioning infants from breast milk to solid foods. Child-proofing techniques created safe environments within settlements that allowed children to explore and learn while preventing exposure to dangerous tools, fire hazards, or toxic materials. Play areas positioned strategically to provide stimulation while maintaining supervision. Tool storage systems that kept dangerous implements away from curious children. Safety protocols that prevented accidents while encouraging healthy development. The child development tracking systems monitored individual growth and capability advancement with precision that would make modern pediatricians envious. Milestone recognition that identified normal development patterns while detecting potential problems early. Skill assessment techniques that evaluated individual capabilities to optimize learning opportunities. Health monitoring that maintained childhood wellness through preventive care and early intervention. Educational progression created systematic learning programs that built competency through age-appropriate activities, while maintaining engagement and motivation. Early childhood stimulation that developed sensory and motor capabilities through structured play. Skill-building activities that prepared children for adult responsibilities while maintaining childhood enjoyment. Knowledge transmission that passed essential survival information through interactive learning experiences. But let's talk about something that will completely blow your mind about Ice Age social engineering. Recent discoveries reveal these communities had developed systematic approaches to managing community psychology during the extended isolation and extreme stress that would drive modern people to complete mental breakdown within weeks. The seasonal affective disorder management systems address depression and mood changes that inevitably occurred during months of darkness and confinement. Light therapy techniques using reflective surfaces to concentrate and direct available sunlight. Activity programs that maintained physical engagement despite limited outdoor access. Social stimulation that prevented isolation depression through structured community interaction. Cabin fever prevention created mental health maintenance programs that addressed the psychological challenges of close quarters living during harsh weather periods. Privacy systems that provided individual space within shared living areas. Conflict avoidance techniques that prevented interpersonal tensions from escalating. Mental stimulation activities that maintained cognitive function during periods of reduced environmental engagement. The group therapy concepts addressed community-wide psychological challenges through collective support and shared coping mechanisms. Discussion circles that allowed emotional expression and mutual support. Shared experience processing that helped community members understand and support each other through difficult periods. Collective problem solving that addressed challenges through group wisdom rather than individual struggle. Stress relief systems created community-wide approaches to managing the constant pressure of survival in hostile environments. Physical release activities that channeled tension through productive exercise and work. Creative expression outlets that provided emotional release while contributing to community culture. Meditation practices that helped individuals manage anxiety through mental discipline and focus. The interpersonal relationship management addressed romantic partnerships, friendships, and family dynamics within confined spaces under extreme stress. Relationship counseling concepts that helped couples navigate challenges while maintaining partnership bonds. friendship maintenance that preserves social connections despite proximity stress, family dynamics support that address generational tensions and role conflicts, mental stimulation programs maintained cognitive function and prevented psychological stagnation during periods of limited environmental variety, learning activities that continued intellectual development despite survival pressures, creative challenges that engaged problem-solving capabilities while contributing to community needs, intellectual games that provided mental exercise through structured entertainment and competition. The emotional support networks created community-wide assistance systems that provided psychological help during individual crisis periods, peer counseling that offered emotional support through shared experience and understanding, crisis intervention that addressed acute psychological distress before it could compromise individual or community function, recovery assistance that helped individuals restore psychological balance after traumatic events, social role flexibility addressed the psychological need for variety and growth within limited community structures, role rotation that prevented boredom and stagnation through changing responsibilities, skill development opportunities that provided personal growth despite confined circumstances, status recognition that acknowledged individual contributions while maintaining community equality. But here's what will absolutely revolutionize your understanding of prehistoric innovation capacity. Archaeological evidence reveals these communities had developed systematic approaches to technological advancement that generated continuous improvement in survival capabilities through organized research and development programs. The materials science research investigated properties of different substances to optimize their application for specific survival needs. Strength testing that determined load-bearing capabilities for construction and tool applications. Durability assessment that predicted material longevity under various environmental conditions. Processing technique development that improved material characteristics through systematic treatment methods. Innovation methodology created structured approaches to problem identification and solution development that accelerated technological advancement. Creative thinking techniques that enhanced problem-solving capabilities beyond conventional approaches. Solution evaluation methods that identified most promising innovations before resource investment. Implementation strategies that maximized innovation adoption while managing associated risks. The experimental protocols established systematic approaches to testing new ideas and techniques without compromising community safety or essential resources. Controlled testing that isolated variables to determine cause and effect relationships. Safety procedures that minimized risks associated with investigating unknown phenomena. Resource management that provided materials for experimentation without compromising survival needs. Technology integration systems incorporated successful innovations into existing community practices while maintaining operational stability. Adoption planning that introduced new technologies gradually to prevent disruption. Training programs that taught community members to use new innovations effectively. Quality maintenance that ensured innovations continued performing effectively over extended periods. The knowledge synthesis approaches combined information from multiple sources into comprehensive understanding that enhanced overall technological capabilities. Information integration that merged findings from different research areas into unified knowledge systems. Pattern recognition that identified underlying principles connecting seemingly unrelated phenomena. Application development that translated research findings into practical techniques improving community survival. Research specialization allowed individuals to focus on specific areas of investigation while maintaining integration with community needs and practical applications. Expert development that created individuals with deep knowledge in particular technological domains. Collaboration coordination that integrated specialized knowledge into comprehensive solutions for complex challenges. Application focus that ensured research generated practical benefits rather than purely theoretical knowledge. The innovation diffusion patterns show how successful technologies spread across vast populations through systematic communication rather than random chance. Early adoption identification that recognized communities most likely to embrace new technologies successfully. Implementation support that assisted technology adoption while maintaining innovation effectiveness. Feedback collection that identified improvement opportunities and addressed implementation challenges. Quality control systems verified innovation effectiveness and safety before community adoption while maintaining openness to beneficial technological change. Verification methods that tested innovations under realistic survival conditions. Peer evaluation that allowed other experts to assess and improve innovation quality. Validation processes that confirmed effectiveness before widespread community implementation. But perhaps most remarkably, they had solved the intellectual property challenge that modern innovation systems struggle with constantly. Knowledge-sharing systems spread beneficial innovations while recognizing original developers through status and community recognition, rather than resource hoarding that could compromise collective survival. So the next time you sit down to a meal, remember that you're participating in culinary traditions that stretch back 40,000 years. Every cooking technique, every nutritional principle, every flavor combination we enjoy today carries the DNA of innovations first developed by our Ice Age ancestors. They didn't just survive the harshest conditions our planet could unleash. They thrived, creating food systems so sophisticated that modern science is still working to understand their genius. From the grinding stones of Dolny Vestonets to the fermentation caves of frozen Europe, they proved that human ingenuity knows no limits when survival demands perfection.